All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Grizzly's Cave. This is Grizzly Andrew, and hope everybody's doing good. I have a very special guest. This is actually going to be he's going to three-peat tonight, being on this show. And before I introduce him, I do want to plug the next NAW wrestling event. It will be Saturday, June 14th at 7 p.m. in Nebo, Kentucky at the Nebo Community Center. The doors will open at 6 p.m. and the ticket prices are free for anybody ages 0 to 5, $5 for anybody ages 6 to 12, and $8 for anybody 13 and older. Concessions will be made available. It is a family-friendly promotion, and I promise folks you will not be disappointed. And I also want to plug the GoFundMe account that I've been plugging. It is Help Ben Build a Future for Indie Wrestling Stars. The link is gofund.me/9, B as in boy, 2, F as in Frank, C as in Charles, 903. And any donations would be greatly appreciated. All right, without further ado, as I said just a minute ago, he is three-peating being on this show. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome the one and the only J.C. Flash. JC, as always, it's an honor and a privilege to have you here on Grizzly's Cave, and thank you for taking time out to be with me again.
Yeah, it's always an honor to be here with you. You know that, and I gotta shoot on one person because I heard y'all's podcast, and he was saying that he's the only one that can show up in person. Well, Justin Styles, if you get a real job, you wouldn't be able to do that. So as a shot on you, buddy. Love you, man.
Yeah, he kind of
I
caught me
wanted to
off.
get that out of the way.
Yes, sir. He he kind of caught me off guard whenever he said that. And if you notice shortly after I said, well, JC can't be here because of his work schedule and stuff, so that's just kind of how it worked out,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh man. Well, so anyways, how's things going, JC?
Oh man, it's been going on. I've got some real good news. I told y'all I'd come back on when I found out what the doctor and everybody said, and uh, the doctor got me the okay to keep on doing what I love to do. So OJC ain't done by a long shot. I got a lot of stuff that I want to accomplish in my career before I gotta hang my boots up. So y'all definitely don't want to miss uh, what's going to be coming up pretty soon for JC. The shows is really knocking it out of the park. The last show, we really did a great job. Everything went good. It was a memorial for my dad and, Justin Styles' dad. And, it was a great night, great honor. Everybody went out there and killed it from everybody. And this show coming up is June 14th, and it's actually my dad's birthday. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a shout out right now that I'm dedicating June 14th, the whole show to my dad for his birthday. I love you. I miss you every day. And this ain't a goodbye. This is see you later, Daddy.
Yes, sir. Well, that's awesome to hear about the what the doctor told you and stuff. And I know Slugger Jackson ain't going to be happy whenever he hears this, but honestly, that man's never happy unless he's griping, complaining, or uh, running his mouth off.
Andrew, as soon as that doctor got me the call and told me that, first person I thought about was Slugger Jackson. And my old lady was like, why would you think about him first? I was like, because I just knew that the doctor said I was going to have to hang him up. So now I don't have to, so I can get my hands on that little peckerhead.
I think it's safe to say
You
that
just wait.
that I imagine I know that's going to be a bad day for him whenever you're able to get your hands on that piece of shit. So I know there's a lot of people
It's
that want to get
definitely
their
going to
hands
be
on
a
him.
bad day for him.
Yeah, I don't get what the guy's deal is. I mean, I mean, just he calls you flash in the pan. He knocked on Justin Styles' pink attire. He called Rowdy Red Santa Claus and all other sorts of stuff. I mean, dude's got some serious issues, I'd say.
He definitely has a lot of serious issues. I will agree with you on that. And the issues that he got, I don't think that I can help him. I don't think the good Lord above can help this guy. I think that he's just I don't know. It's hard to explain. He started out being this commentator and started out being all this stuff, and then he set up there and he ran his mouth about everybody, and then all the next thing I know, he's running this nightmare of Null, saying he's going to take over and he's going to do this and he's going to do that. I just wish we could get him on here too because I would like to ask him what happened at the last show. Everything in America went wrong. I guess you didn't plan it good enough or something. I mean, you know, um, and what's sad is he's got DDG, he got Alexander Cage, he's got this big dorky I guess it's his security guard. I don't know what he is, but it looked like he found him at the Buffalo on the Buffalo Wild Wings eating chicken or something. I really don't know where he found that guy at. And then you got Nick Willis that actually lost. And what's funny about the situation, if y'all fans wasn't there, is Slugger Jackson come out there and he tried to stack the deck against Casanova, and it didn't work out too good for him because he made himself the special guest referee. Well, the big Turbo Lord guy he got that was eating chicken smashed him. He falls down. When Cowboy comes in and makes the 3 count with Slugger's hand. 1, 2, 3. So the match is over and he lost the title. So I'm telling you, Slugger Jackson, before he got smashed, probably weighed 220, 230 pounds. Well, after he got smashed, I bet he didn't weigh 100 pounds. It just blows my mind.
Yeah,
I'm sitting in the back watching this on the TV, and I'm like, oh my Lord, that is some funny shit right there now.
yeah. From what I remember, he got flattened like a pancake and stuff after that avalanche
Yes,
that he
sure
took
did.
from the big man. Yeah. If I'm not
It was
mistaken,
some funny stuff.
when that idiot got on the microphone and just started running his mouth off again, I think he referred to the big man as his insurance policy. We don't even know his name. I think Slugger was too busy, focusing on just shooting his mouth off. He forgot to tell the audience the name of his bodyguard.
Yeah, yeah. You know
Yeah.
who he reminds me of? Oh,
Who's that?
he reminds me of, Big Huge, the bodyguard. Wearing the, all nice suit and all that stuff, and then he comes out here and he's like, "What in the what does this do?"
Right. You mean Mr. Hughes?
He's as big as he is. Yeah, yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah,
Okay.
And then he comes out there all dressed up and all this stuff, and come out there, and I'm like, "What in the heck? Hell, he's as big as he is tall." Like, what's this guy gonna do? Like, I don't know. I'm telling you. Yeah, leave it to Slugger Jackson. I'm telling you.
I'll tell you one thing.
He can find some whoppers.
Slugger Jackson, he must have a big bank account or something, because I mean he talked about he was gonna get his lawyers involved when you got screwed over with the Bluegrass Championship. I'm sure that wasn't a cheap bill, and now he's shelling out money. He purchased Aria from the Jolly Rogers, and now he's bringing in his quote insurance policy because if you remember, he was ragging on the security for Naw and stuff, and which I thought was a pretty low down, cheap shot thing for him to say and all that. But unfortunately, his insurance policy didn't come in for it. Didn't really help him out much, did he?
Now, I'll tell you a story one time about the insurance. I had full coverage on a truck one time, and somebody stole it and burnt it down, and I still owed the company
Mm.
a little bit of money after that, and that's a true story. That's actually true. So he goes out and he gets his insurance policy, and he smashes him. I mean, that's kind of like the same thing. The money didn't work out, did it?
No, no, he must
I
have.
just wondered if I wonder if he didn't take him to Golden Corral before that. He might have got mad because he didn't take him to Golden Corral.
Well, what'd you think about
'Cause
Slugger?
I don't think he's feeding him. I mean, I don't think he's paying him. I think he's feeding him.
Jesus Christ! Oh my God! Oh my
Oh man.
gosh! Well, I'll say this. Well, first off, I hate that happened to your truck. If you don't mind me asking, if you don't want to name the insurance company that you had,
I name it. I put it out there real loud and clear.
go ahead.
Progressive Insurance.
Oh, okay. Uh,
Progressive Insurance. And what was sad, Andrew, is I've been with them people. Uh, we was with them for 9 years
mhm.
and never had a claim on anything. I mean nothing. I put a new transmission in this truck. I put a new rear end in this old Chevy. And about 2 months after I'd done all that work to it, that's when it was stolen. And they stole it, and they took it, and they ended up finding the truck, but they burnt it to the ground.
Damn.
And when it was all said and done, I still owed the insurance, not the insurance. I still owed the lien holder $197. But I had full coverage insurance,
Okay.
and it was a $500 deductible.
Mhm.
I thought if you have full coverage insurance, and something like that happened, they pay your truck off and at least give you, help you get another vehicle or something. What's the point of having full coverage insurance?
Yeah. When you said that, that kind of threw me for a loop. I've never used Progressive. Now I've used Geico for the last 10 years, and
Yeah.
um, I had a similar incident. Well, nobody stole my vehicle, but we'll go back before I switched to Geico. I was with
Uh-huh.
Kentucky Farm Bureau whenever I was still living in Hopkins County at the time, and I had a '98 Ford. I can't even say Explorer. I'll call it an Exploder. I believe I wasn't as savvy on diagnosing vehicle problems back then,
Right.
but years later I figured out it was the transmission that went out. Um,
Oh,
so
okay.
so this house that I lived in with my first wife and my oldest daughter, Bree. Heck, Bree was like 2 months when this happened. Um, there was this big tree in the front yard, and I was gone to Frankfurt for in-service training when I was still with the DOT, and I got a phone call, and I was told that the Explorer has been smashed, and I was like, "What do you mean it's been smashed?" This big massive tree uprooted or derooted or whatever, but it fell over and smashed the Explorer. And
Oh my.
yeah, she sent me the picture, and I was like, "Good God!" And we had already invested not a whole lot of money, but some money into trying to get it back up and running and stuff. But honestly, that was a sign from above that it was time to get rid of that sucker. And the insurance company, they paid a tree company to come saw the tree down, remove the tree and remove the tree limbs and everything. They paid for the tow. I think it was Jeff's Towing that came and got the vehicle, and they actually paid off the rest of the vehicle. So, luckily I had full coverage insurance, so it took care of it. But man, that's really weird. I don't see why your insurance company wouldn't have paid that extra $197. I mean, that don't make a lick of
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, it blew my mind. See, when I got the bill, I was like, "What is this?" And I kind of looked at it for a minute. So of course I got on the phone and called Progressive, and I said, "Why am I getting a bill for 100? It's like 190. Can't remember exactly what it is. 190 something."
Hmm.
And I said, "Why am I getting this bill?" And they said, "Well, I don't know. Let me look into it." I mean, it took forever. They finally called me back like a week later and said, "Well, you owe that." And I said, "Well, how do I owe this if I had full coverage?" "Oh, well, the truck was only book value for this, and that was left."
Oh
And
God.
I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, ain't no way." I said, "All the money I paid y'all
Hmm.
to have insurance for the last 10 years and never have a claim, and it was, and I only owed like it wasn't very much. It was I might have owed 5 grand on the truck."
Hmm.
And I mean, they put me through the ringer too. They had to get all my phone. They thought I burnt it down. And
Oh
I said,
dang.
"I just put a new transmission in it, put a new rear end in it. I done all kinds of stuff to this truck. I would have burned it down way before I done all that.
Jeez
If I was
Louise.
trying to get insurance, money,
Right.
it just blew my mind.
So they were
Definitely
assuming
sad.
that you committed arson and fraud to get insurance money. That's pretty much
Yeah.
what it sounds like they were going for. Oh man.
Yeah, I had to turn my phone records in and all kinds of stuff.
God.
And I was like, I just can't believe all this. I mean, just blows my mind. And then they finally went on and paid it off. They did get me a rental car
Hmm.
for like 2 months, and why it was going on after they realized it wasn't mine, it wasn't me and stuff. And so I got me a rental car for 2 months, and heck, that thing was junk. Hell, it broke down twice,
Oh wow.
but yeah, it was sad. But yeah, anyways, yeah, got the bill. I had to end up paying it. I thought, man. So yeah, we're not with them anymore. If y'all couldn't get that.
Well,
So
I wasn't gonna
I
bother asking. I pretty much assumed, but dang,
yeah.
now how long ago was this?
Let's see, me and Heather's been together about 10 years ago,
Jeez.
10
Mm-mm-mm.
or 11, or 9 or 10, might have been 9 years, something like that.
Dang.
Yeah, it was. I bought it over at Third Chance Auto Sales
Mm-hmm.
in Owensboro. Well, I bought the truck, but of course, we was financed through a different company.
Right.
But yeah, sure did.
Man, that's
I seen how that Facebook shows pictures, memories. I seen a picture of it like, yeah, the other day, and it was that. And if I remember right, it was actually 8 years ago. Sorry, it was 8 years ago. And but yeah, it had all the pictures that I had that truck. So yeah, it's sad.
damn.
What's the point of having full coverage if they don't even do nothing for you?
Right. Well, see, and that's the thing. Whenever you lease or you buy a new vehicle, there, like you mentioned earlier, there's a lien on it, and whenever
Yep.
you're getting it added to your insurance, I mean, you don't have the option of choosing. You have to.
No.
It's pretty much mandatory. You got to have
Yep.
full coverage at least until it's paid off. And not only
Yeah, the
that,
pickup truck I got now, I got full coverage. In my old lady's van, I got full coverage.
right?
Because of that.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and the thing is too
but
is now here in the state of which I know it's across the nation, but you know by law you have to have insurance when you're driving because if you get pulled over and you don't have insurance, they don't fine you, they cite you to court, and then you got to go to court and
yeah,
all that, and then the judge will fine you. You'll have to pay court costs. It'd be probably quite a few $100s, just for that. Um, and then also,
you know what's
they could
crazy
impact.
though now?
What's that?
Like if me and you was in a wreck together, like I ran over you or you ran over me, in the state of Kentucky, it's a no fault.
Yep, I knew that.
Ain't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
If I ran over you and I admit I ran over you, then it should be my fault, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, great state of
You,
Kentucky
you
for you. That's all
you'll
I can say.
you'll love this story. So back in it was 2016. It was either February or March. It was right before WrestleMania 32. They had this special pay-per-view. I think they called it Roadblock, one of McMahon's ideas. And my buddy that works at GE, and I'll give him a shout out. His name's James Gibbs, and he had a Roku. It was either a Roku or a Fire Stick, and he had the network. So I went over to his house. It was gonna be me, him, and a buddy of mine named Keith. We were gonna watch the paper. We were gonna watch the pay per view, and we kept waiting for Keith. And Keith finally got back in touch with us and said, "Well, he was in a wreck. He's going to be a little bit." And our first thought, our first worry was, "Is Keith okay?" You know, and he was fine.
Right.
here's where it gets
Of course.
funny. So the car was totaled. It was a 4-door sedan. I cannot remember what kind of vehicle he had, but he actually had the tow truck drop him off at James's house so he could watch the pay-per-view with us. I wound up taking him home after. But here's the story with what
That sound
happened.
like me.
Hmm. So you'll know where I'm talking about, and I'm sure those that listen to this will know. But for those that don't know, over on South Main Street in Madisonville, which that's US 41.
Yep.
He was, which it's a 4-lane road. When you get further down, like going towards the DG Marketplace, Rural King, and all that. He was pulling out of a parking lot. I can't remember if he was leaving the DG from down there or the Marketplace, but he pulled out because he said, and it's pitch black, because it was dark still early at that time, so around 5:36 or so. He pulls out. He doesn't see any lights coming, and then he gets T-boned. Well, um, it was a young girl that hit him, and she said to him, "Why'd you pull out in front of me?" And he said to her, "Where's your lights at?" Then she went and flipped the switch,
Right.
turned her lights on, and
Oh.
that's when I first found out about Kentucky being a no fault state. And my first thought, well, I mean, heck,
Yeah.
even if he didn't tell her to, keep the switch off, or even if he didn't mention anything about the light switch, I mean, they still would have said no fault state, but it would have proved his story, whenever the cops showed up to do the
Yeah.
accident
Yeah.
report. Speaking of reports, there was a police report with your truck being taken and set on fire, wasn't there?
Yep.
And I'm assuming the insurance
Yep.
company was able to, and that still wasn't good enough for them.
Nope.
You got to
They
be
said
kidding
that
me.
I could have. They said I could have called somebody like Train American Warrior. Um, his real name is Shane. But me and him used to talk on the phone quite a bit back in the day, and because he's my cousin, and they was trying to say that I got my cousin to come do it. Because what's crazy is I was working at Shorman. It was it's a place down there that does milling work, road work, and I was working for this company called Shorman Bridge
Mhm.
out of Madisonville, and my truck was in a fenced area. Now the gate wasn't shut, but I mean it was in a fenced area, and we got to work that morning, and we was gonna go out and do a job, and come back that day. So we didn't pack bags and all that stuff. We just parked the truck out there like I've done 1,000 times. Like we go out and we do the job. We get there about 5 o'clock that morning, and we leave. And we go do the job, and we get back. I don't know. We get back about 2:30. Well, my fiance got the key to my truck. So when I pull in and don't see my truck, I'm thinking, well, okay, well, she come and got it to go haul something or whatever the case is. Or my mom got the key from her and borrowed it.
Mhm.
Picked the phone up and called them. I was like, no, we don't got it. We don't got it. We don't got it. And what's crazy, Andrew, is earlier that day, I guess right after the guy, whoever stole it, they never did find out who stole it because he burnt it. Whoever did steal it, what's sad is out there on the WK, I guess they was speeding down the road because they found it over in Muhlenberg County burning. That's how they found it. Somebody called it in.
Okay.
But a cop got behind my truck and ran the tags on my truck because he was speeding, but he slowed down.
Yeah.
But at that time, I didn't know it was stolen, so it wasn't reported stolen.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I mean that helped a little bit. Uh, and like I said, they wanted my phone records. They called me. I was like, "Well, we see that you called this one number, and it was my cousin." I said, "That's my cousin. Talk to him all the time." I said, "You telling me I can't talk to people?" No, but it just seems kind of weird that you do talk to him a lot. I was like, "Are you serious?"
Oh man.
I was like, I want another agent to deal with because I cannot deal with you no more.
Right.
And they ended up giving me a different agent because I would not talk to that woman no more.
Mm.
I mean, she was really determined, like I'd done that, and I was like, I don't even make no sense because why? I even had all my paperwork that I just fit a new transmission in it, fit
Mhm.
a new rear end in it, had all the paperwork on every bit of that.
Right.
Why would I go out there and spend? It was, I think, with the rear end and transmission, I paid almost 3 grand in that. Why would I go and put 3 grand in a truck that I'm just going to burn to the ground?
Yeah. No, that I mean, no sane person would do that.
Right.
And this is a thing that.
And
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, no, no. Go ahead. I mean, I was just saying that it's sad. It's sad that whether it's use word or however you want to say it, United States, whatever you want to say, it's come to. It's all about the bottom dollar.
Mhm.
We paid these people for 10 years at 300 some dollars a month to have insurance on mine and old lady's car, and one time they got to pay out, like I said, $5,000 or $6,000. Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
No,
You know,
I was just gonna say, you know, in that instance, you had your paperwork, you had a police report.
yeah,
They didn't see
yeah,
foul play from your end. You had all the evidence, in your favor. Now, let's say you didn't sink that money in to get, putting that work in
yeah,
on your truck. Let's say that, there was no police report, you know what I'm saying? Or,
yeah, yeah, yeah. If I
I'm
didn't have, if it looked suspicious, then I would totally understand all the questions.
sure. Common,
100%, because it's so many people out there that does that stuff,
yeah,
and that's what messes up for an honest man. And don't get me wrong, y'all, I'm not perfect by no means, but one thing about me, I'm honest.
Yeah.
I'm, if I done something, okay, I done it. But if I didn't do it, I'm not going to admit that I done it.
Yeah. Common sense goes a long way. Unfortunately, you can't mandate common sense. In a lot of places, it's pretty much on back order. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
better
I'll,
than we had. So I mean,
there was
not going to get into all that, but I'm
right,
just saying though.
right. You'll get a kick out of this. So back when I was working the road, this is my first week on my own outside of getting off of my FTO phase, and I was working Muhlenberg County, and got a call of an accident, single automobile accident, and I eventually go to apparently the car was on. There's an accident. The car was on fire and stuff and all that. So I go to this address, and there's no car on fire. There's no car out in the road. There's a car in the driveway, and the guy tells me his car caught fire in his driveway. Okay, that's not an accident. You know what I'm saying? That's not a collision. And
No.
I explained to him. I said, well, because I called my sergeant on this one because this was kind of a new one for me. You know what I mean? And he told me,
Yeah.
he said that's not a collision. He said, no, you're not going to fill anything out for him. Well, then after I told the fella that, he said, well, do you think if I call the sheriff's office they'll do it? I said, I mean, you can call them, but I said that they'll probably tell you the same thing I did. I said the best thing you can do is just contact your insurance company. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Now say something like that, and that seems a little fishy.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
uh, I would understand all the questions and stuff like that.
right.
You know, even if the car burns up at my house or my mom's house or something like that, I would understand that. But yeah, I mean, once I realized my truck was stolen, then that's when I was like, okay, let's I called the cops
Hmm.
and reported it stolen, and they come out and did a police report, and that's when they got my license plate number, that's when they ran it back and they seen it was ran earlier that day, and it was going towards Muhlenberg County. So they contacted them and told them to look out for a white Chevy Silverado pickup truck with a toolbox on the back. Uh, and like I said, it was uh, about 2 days later,
Hmm.
maybe three. That's when the police officer called me and said, "I think we found your truck. We need you to come to." They had it at some impound yard or whatever in Muhlenberg County.
Hmm.
And so me and the old lady, and what was crazy is I had a wrestling ring. That's kind of funny. Goes back up to that, but the big, square poles that the rope took in the four corners.
Hmm.
I had them up inside my truck. Well, one of them fell over, and when it did, it bit like a solid like dent on the top rail of the bed of my truck.
Hmm.
So that was something that I could, if I could find that dent, I know it's mine. Well, when I get there, I mean, this truck is burnt crispy. Nothing's left on this truck. And it was a white truck, and I mean, you couldn't even hardly see the paint at all. I mean, they burnt this truck bad.
Jeez.
And but I seen that crease. Well, that ring pole fell down on that bed, and that's how I realized it. And what's sad is, in that toolbox, I had over 2,500, at least $2,000 worth of tools
Oh
in that
man.
toolbox.
Mm.
And of course the toolbox was gone. Well, yeah, it's gone. They robbed all that, before they burned it. And and that was one thing I said, why did they have to burn my truck?
Yeah.
Why couldn't they just left it, wiped the fingerprints off of it, whatever, and just left it? somewhere.
Well,
You know what?
that's probably, that's definitely why they burned it, because they were probably too dumb to realize that, oh hey, we could just wipe our prints off and stuff. But or they probably thought,
Yeah.
well, they might wipe, they might have thought they wiped it down clean, and may have missed a print or something, and then just to say, well, fuck it, we'll just burn it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it was definitely sad. I love that old truck. It's a good old truck too. Done all that work to it. Oh man. Six months. Had brand new set of tires on the back. The front probably had. Heck, they had about 85% tread on the front. I mean,
Mm,
yeah, it was a sick day for sure.
yeah, man, I hate that happened, man. That's bullshit that happened to you.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's even more bullshit that your insurance company was, you know, you know, basically, making you sound like the heel out of the whole thing.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
biggest bullshit about all of that. And you,
yeah. It was definitely a sad situation
yeah,
all the way around.
yes, sir. Um, crap. There was something I was gonna. Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say yeah. Hopefully, well, hopefully they don't check your phone records now, because me and you've talked for 5, 6 hours at a time and everything, and they'll be like, well, that's plenty of time to come up with some kind of scheme or whatever, to get you some insurance money or whatnot, blah blah blah, and
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah, for sure.
well,
Yeah. Oh, I hope never nothing don't happen because boy, they will be riding me for sure this time.
hell, they'll be calling me on my regular phone. I'm sure they'll call the Google Voice number that I'm calling you from right now and everything, and being like, well,
Oh yeah.
what are you and JC Flash talking about for this length of period of time about wrestling? I mean,
Yeah. Go on the broadcast, you can hear it.
go listen to, be like, go to
Go
Grizzlies
to
Cave.
Grizzly Cave, yeah.
I'm on I'm on 5 different platforms. You take your pick, whichever one you want to listen to. So just look for the ones that say
Right?
JC Flash.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely sad for sure, the way stuff happens, the way that stuff goes down anymore and just genuine life, you know. I
Yeah,
mean it really is by the guy stealing it, he's probably some worthless bum that don't want to work, don't want to have nothing in life, and he looked over there and seen a truck. Oh, well, he probably makes pretty good money. He won't miss this truck, and don't realize that I'm living paycheck to paycheck. So all these unlazy, wealthy idiots out here, we work hard for them to set it home, and that's just the way I feel about that.
yeah. So, I told you I worked at Aldi's, years ago. Well, while I was finishing up while I was going through college, and then even after I graduated college, and I worked at the one in Clarksville for about 3 years, and then I worked at the one in Hopkinsville for about 2.5 years. Totally preferred the one in Clarksville a lot better. Um, that People were a lot nicer and a lot more respectful, but you also had to be cautious on what you said. There were some sensitive people that shopped at the one I worked at in Clarksville. Now there's like 3 Aldis in Clarksville now, but the one in Hopkinsville. Oh man, I'm gonna try to word this as best as I can here, But okay, if you are driving nicer cars than what I have, and you've got nicer clothes, and you look like you've went to either a salon or something and got pampered, you
Yeah,
probably shouldn't be living off my tax dollars. Just saying,
there you go.
you
There
know
you go.
that's about the best way I can that's about the best thing I can do to say that. But the nicest
Yeah,
way I can say
and
that.
that's 100% the truth right there, though. What you just said is the truth.
Yeah,
I mean, it's sad. Now, because what's sad is this the easiest way I can say this is everybody's got people that they know that's living off of government, some kind of form, whatever it is.
Mhm.
What's sad is a working man or a working woman can't get help with nothing,
Yeah.
you know. But somebody that don't want to work that can work. I'm not talking about the people that really need it. The people really need it. That's why it's there. And I'm
Exactly.
so grateful to work for y'all. I am.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
the people that can go out there and hold a job that can work drives me insane. I'm at the grocery store buying food, and I got 6 things in my cart, and they got 2 buggies full of food,
Mhm.
and it just hurts me up. And don't get me wrong, y'all. I've 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 back in the day, I used to get food stamps. I used to get government help. When I wasn't, I was working, but I wasn't making a lot of money, and we qualified for them, and all that stuff. And nowadays, oh, you make too much money. You make too much money. You make too much money. That's all I hear. And it's sad
Mhm.
because if I made too much money, then why am I here asking for some help?
Exactly.
You know, but if you don't want to work, then no, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go.
Yeah.
And that's a part of the system that I won't ever understand. I don't believe it'll ever change. I believe it's going to be that way forever,
Yeah.
and it is what it is. You know, and ain't nothing that me and you can do about it. But it's one thing that me and you can say that a lot of people can't say, Andrew.
Mhm.
Everything we got, we worked for,
Absolutely.
and I'm more proud about that than I would be if somebody was handing me money, whoever it is.
Right. Yeah, and and I'm not, me, I'm not wealthy myself either. I don't really have a lot, but what I do have, I'm very proud of because I've worked like you said, hard work, paid that off. So, absolutely.
One
Um,
hundred percent. I don't got a lot, and I don't got a lot of money. I'm not a rich guy. I'm a truck driver. Uh, I'm make decent money. Um, and I'm a wrestler. Don't make decent money. and um, but I wake up every morning, slip my pants on, and I feel proud. And
mhm.
I'm very blessed. The good Lord has blessed me in so many ways, and I'm blessed that I can get up and go to work every day.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Um, which you know this, but I don't think our listeners do. So, folks, there for a while I didn't do episodes because I had switched to a different job. Well, I wound up leaving that job, and
Yay!
well, so folks, I'm just gonna shoot straight with you. I'm all for giving a 2 week notice. I'm all for that, and it's professional courtesy. This last job I had, this it's the first job I've ever had that I I didn't call them up. I actually sent an email to two of the three supervisors I had to answer to. Excuse me, each week, and I emailed them, told them I told them I was resigning, I wasn't coming back, and that's the first job I've ever had that I've ever done that. Folks, I'll tell you this: it's definitely important to work by all means because we got to work to live. We got bills to pay. We have a lot. We have children. We've got to take care of that. But don't settle for just anything. Make sure you're actually going to enjoy what you do because if you're going to a place that you just dread going to on a daily or nightly basis, probably need to get the hell out of there before it's too late. But with that said, I went for about 2 weeks not working. Thank God I had money saved up because that helped get me through. But I did get another job and I had orientation today, and I had a lot better feeling about this place than I did the last company that I worked for that I had like a 7 week run with. And, and I'm going to throw this out there too. I'm not against mandatory overtime or voluntary overtime, it's extra money. But when you tell me the night before that I've got to work mandatory overtime, you know, give you need at least a couple of days notice because in my instance and JC, this, because I get my oldest daughter practically every weekend. Some of us have kids, we have families, we have actual lives outside of where we work at and stuff. You know, like
Right.
I said, we work to live, we don't live to work. So,
Hey,
but anyways, I'll get off my soapbox on that before I wind up going on
thing
a big
about a my thing about a 2 week notice is I'm very firm on a 2 week. I think you should give a two week notice. But
one.
old old guy told me one day. He said, if I was working for you, I said, yeah. He said, and you was gonna fire me, would you give me a 2 week notice? And I said, what do you mean? And I was kind of like just stunned, like I didn't understand what he like. What? He said, if I was working for you and you was gonna fire me for something, would you give me a 2 week notice? I was like, well, no. He said, then why should I give you a 2 week notice if I'm gonna quit?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, you make a heck of a good point on that. I guess I kind of understand it. He said, don't get me wrong. If the company is real good to you and treats you real good and all that, 100% give them a notice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but he said it's one other thing I want to tell you. And I said, all right. He said, if you wake up in the morning and you dread going to work, or you just don't want to get up in the morning, and, you just want to lay in bed and not go to work, it's time to find a different job.
Mm-hmm.
He said, don't get me wrong. You're not going to love anything when it comes to work. I don't care what you do in life. If you got to get up and you got to work a job, you're not going to love it. But if you just can't stand it and you can't even get yourself out of bed, it's time to find something else to do. And
Yeah.
I've always lived by that.
Yeah.
You know, uh, I love what I do, y'all. I'm a truck driver. It's two things in life that I really wanted to do, and that's the reason why when I say I'm blessed, I'm very blessed because two things I always wanted to do, and that was drive a truck like my dad and wrestle like Sting.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, I've been living these dreams about the exact, about almost maybe a year different, and truck driving and wrestling, but uh, I've been very, very blessed and very fortunately to do two things I really love to do. But does it get lonely out here? Does it get, you know, uh, a lot of truck drivers don't get the respect that they deserve. Now, we got a lot of steering wheel holders out here, but a true, real truck driver, you know, when we leave the house, we don't know. The,
Yeah.
the way I explained it to my old lady, she works at her shoot job is the same shoot job that Andrew used to work at, and he ended up quitting there, and I understand why he did and all that stuff. Uh, but she works there, and she deals with idiots. You can ask Andrew, a lot of them there. And the thing about it is I deal with all of y'all out here trucking. Because everybody drives up and down the road. So instead of dealing with 10 or 12 idiots on a 12-hour shift, I'm dealing with the whole universe.
Right.
So uh, that's that's a downfall of it. But I just keep turning miles. That's all I can do.
So, um, I was talking with you earlier on the phone, and I told you that our orientation today we had 12 people, and there was 5 of us that used to work at the shoot job that Heather works at. And I spoke with one of them, and I'll leave her nameless, but I asked her what happened, and she told me. She said they found out that she had an interview with another company, and I've never worked for that company that she interviewed for because it's really hard to get on there. And they found out about it, and then she basically said they were, and this is all alleged because I mean this is just, let me throw this out there too, just because I don't want any legal ramifications. But allegedly they started nitpicking her, basically from what I was gathering from her, and then she eventually got the boot. So, and this all happened this month actually. So, um, I've talked with some people that I worked with at my old shoot job, and I've heard it's getting worse. Um, yeah, there's a lot of details I really want to say, but but to not make life harder for the people that I'm still friends with and still keep in contact with at that shoot job,
Right.
I won't say it, but I've just heard things have gotten a little bit crazier out there.
Yeah, yeah, it has. Like I said, Heather walks out there, so yeah, it has. But I'm not going to mention the names or anything like that. It's um, if you ever work here, then you can come on and talk about it too, buddies.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh me. Well, I will ask this:
Yeah.
how's your daughter faring over there?
Ah, this is actually, she started that new thing,
Mm,
and I think this was her first week back actually, doing it. And I haven't talked to her yet, to be honest with you. Now, my other daughter, my stepdaughter, she's, you know, she's still doing her,
good.
she's, she told me, she said, well, I said, how do you put up with this? She said, I show up, do my job, and go home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, sometimes that's the best way to do it right there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
She said, I don't put no bids in. I don't do nothing to try to move up. I do what I'm supposed to do and go home. I
Yeah.
said, I don't blame you one bit, Susie.
Yeah. No, and it was just getting to the point that I was dreading going to work, and and it had all happened, within the last, you know, couple of months 3 months that I was there. And like I said, I won't go in all the details because I've still been debating if I'm going to do a episode on that with why I left.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, a, a former coworker and colleague, and I'll say an old friend of mine. She had asked me. She said, "Do you even enjoy coming to work?" I said, "No." And then when she said
Yep.
that, when she asked me that, and I responded pretty quickly. I was like, it's probably time to go elsewhere.
Right.
And it was hard to walk away from because it was a lot of.
Well,
I
if you
mean,
don't care, if you don't care, Sharon, how long was you there?
8.5 years.
8.5 years. That's a long time to be somewhere and build up to what you was at in that company.
Hmm.
To just say, you know, I mean, that wasn't an easy, that wasn't an easy thing for you, and I know that.
No.
I mean,
Mm-mm.
so I mean, and the reason why I brought that up is the point of it is you don't never know what life throws at you,
Right.
y'all, life, everything can be going just as smooth as a baby's bottom, and then boom, a big S curve right in the road.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, sometimes you got to step back and you got to think about, uh, what should I do? This is the way it is. Stop and think before you do, because I know Andrew's been at that moment at one time that, he didn't stop and think, and he wished he did. I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's been there.
Yeah.
You know, uh, and I might be in a different career, or I might be at a different job if I did stop and think. I mean, but sometimes you can only take so much, and then the heck with it. You know,
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah. And JC, you know this, but folks, I mean, I miss getting to work with his wife and his daughter. Didn't really work with his stepdaughter much, just because of the shift, because of the whole different shift and all that. But yeah, I definitely miss working with your family and all that. And and there are people that that I work close with that I still miss. And I still, like I said, I still call one of them. He's one of my best friends, and he's actually the one that suggested the place that I'm at now, because he had worked there for many years, and he had actually told me about a year ago, if it didn't work out there, that he could play. He said it would just take one phone call and I can get you on out there. I was like, well, man, I appreciate that. So um,
Right.
I mentioned his name during my interviews, and the people that interviewed me, they said, "Oh yeah, we know him." Yeah, they had nothing but good things to say about him. So so that really helped me
That's
out.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yep.
I so let's gear back to we'll gear back to wrestling here. So sorry, folks. Yeah, we that's just kind of how it goes with me and JC when we talk. Mostly it's wrestling, but then sometimes we'll talk about work and just really get on a big deep discussion about that. Let me think. Um, I was thinking earlier. We had talked a couple weeks back. You had asked about what would it have been like for Sting and Warrior, if Sting went to WWF instead, or instead of NWA, and Warrior went to NWA first, and I gave you my opinion. Well, then there was
Yeah.
something else that popped in my mind.
All right.
And I know Justin Styles likes to say that Hulk Hogan, is my hero. Well,
Oh
brother,
God.
no, Hulk Hogan is not my hero. That don't work for me. Um, I got to thinking, you know, Warrior, when he made his entrance in the WWF, and it's been documented on the Self Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD and shoot interviews from other legends. They talked about when he'd be gassed, after sprinting to the ring, and running to the all corners, shaking the ropes and everything. They say he'd be pretty pooped out. I got it got me thinking. What if he didn't run to the ring for his entrances? Now, when he first went to the main roster, this would have been around the fall of '87.
Yeah.
he was just walking. He didn't have music at that just yet. And it got me to thinking, maybe if he had not run to the ring all them times, I'm wondering if maybe his matches could have been longer and may have been better quality. Uh, the other and folks, not to speak ill of the dead, like I said, Warrior was actually my hero, one of my favorite wrestlers. Undertaker being right there with him, and Ultimate Warrior was my motivation to start working out and build my scrawny ass body up. Um, but then I also got to thinking, JC, had he not run, but he still had that music, would the crowd have jumped to their feet and stuff and all that? You know,
No.
like they did whenever that music hit and he came out running. You said no.
The reason why I say no is because when Warriors music hit, it wasn't about his matches. That that's the thing about it. That's the reason why I say that he went to an entertainment place. Sting went to a wrestling place. That's why I say that because and I got a point after this too to kind of prove what I mean. When when his music hit and you're a fan and he would have walked to the ring and he would have got in the ring and maybe shucked the ropes a little bit, whatever, um, and had a match, and it'd be a decent match, not a 5 star, but a decent match. Would you have remembered it more, or would you remembered it more? The music hit, him running to the ring, sliding into the, getting into the ring, shaking the ropes, running back and forth, doing all the crazy stuff he did, going there, bam, 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 boom. 1, 2, 3 matches over. What would be more entertaining and what would have been more exciting? What do you think?
Well, the more entertaining and exciting part was him running down the ring at 150 miles an hour and boom, 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 like run, hitting all the corners, shaking the ropes, and all this and that, and then having his little short matches. That would have been more entertaining and exciting. You know,
And at that time, you wanted to do that to the kids, like you. You
right,
was a kid.
right,
That's the high you got off of that.
hmm
Is him that music hit and him running down the ring and running from post to post and then getting in there shaking it. I mean that's what built you up. And my point was that I was talking about. I got a point for that. Goldberg.
hmm
Goldberg. Him knocking on his door, him coming out, him smashing his head against the locker, whatever, and him walking to the ring, and all that pyro coming up on him, and he breathes out smoke when he comes out, and then he gets in the ring, and the match lasts 2 seconds, 3 seconds. So the entrance was the whole match. That was part of the match.
right.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'm meaning by that. If I like, it don't work for me, brother. Hulk Hogan. When his music hit, everybody loved his song. Everybody sung his song. I even sung his song because I loved that song. Okay? He'd come out, do the little gear thing, do this thing. He goes in there and has a shitty match like normal. And then once he's going to body slam somebody that a 150-pound guy could have body slammed, but oh my God, it's going to break Hulk Hogan's back for slamming this guy. But ain't that made no sense to me. That make no sense to me. But whatever. And he has the match, and then when the match is over, he's doing the ear thing and doing the poses and all that. What do you remember? You remember his song, and you remember his poses
hmm
and the leg drop.
Yeah.
You know,
Bruce
I
Pritchard.
mean,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
no, 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 no. I was just gonna say that's the difference between WWE, and I'm not saying it's wrong. You will never hear me say it's wrong, but that's the difference between WWE and then you go over here to NWA or WCW or AWA, whatever you want to do. The second ranked shows, go over there, and what do you see? You see wrestling. You
hmm
see great interviews.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
that's the difference in my opinion.
yes, sir. Bruce Pritchard used to say this about. Um, he would mention this about Hogan on a lot of the podcast episodes that I had originally listened to, which I haven't really listened to his podcasts in a while. But he always did McMahon's impersonation. Hogan must pose.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the truth. I mean, uh, I'm not a big Hogan fan, and I know you're not a big Hogan fan.
No.
But I was going to ask you this question: what is your Mount Rushmore for WWF? Not WWE. We'll do that in a minute. What's your Mount Rushmore for WWF?
Okay, so if we're just going singles wrestlers,
Yeah,
um,
just single or we can do a tag team in a little bit.
okay, I'm gonna throw Undertaker.
All right.
I will throw Ultimate Warrior.
All right.
Let's see. I will throw. I think I said to Brooks. I mentioned Ken Patera.
Okay.
Let's see. Who would be my fourth one for that time singles? I'd say Jake Roberts.
Okay. Now I'm going to give you mine, and then we'll go to the WWE when it transferred to WWE and see what you are then.
Okay.
my WWF is, of course, Andre the Giant, uh, Hulk Hogan, and I'm not a big fan of Hulk Hogan, but Hulk Hogan done a lot for WWE. If it wasn't for Hogan, WWE would have never made it.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was him and Vince, but whatever. So Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, uh, who would be my other two? That's it's a lot. Um, I would have to say Macho Man Randy Savage,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, like a toss up between Jake Roberts and Ted DiBiase.
Mm. Yeah.
You know, either one of them could have been on there, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're WWE Mount Rushmore.
Oh, let's see here. Well, I'm gonna throw Kurt Angle in there.
All right.
I'll throw Stone Cold Steve Austin.
All right.
The Rock.
All right.
Oh man,
It's hard.
it is hard. I'm gonna throw Taker in there too, because I mean he was part of he was there when they
Yeah.
transitioned to WWE. So yeah, it'd be them.
All right. My four in WWE would be Taker. It would be Shawn Michaels. It would be Triple H. And I'm probably going to get some heat off this, but I really don't care. But Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
And if I get heat off of it, I get heat off of it. But that's just my. I don't agree with whatever happened, what happened, but in his in-ring ability, he was one of the best.
Yes.
He really was. And but that would be that. All right. Now let's do the WWF tag team.
Okay. All right. So Demolition, hands down.
I knew that was going to be your first.
Let me see here. Next would be the natural disasters, earthquake and typhoon. I'm gonna throw Power and Glory, and
Okay.
gosh dang it, God, there's so many good ones to choose from here. I'll say the Rockers.
Okay. My tag team in WWF would be the Hart Foundation,
Yep.
Demolition, the Killer Bees, and man, I guess I'm going to go with the Rockers too.
Yeah.
Very big fan of Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. I really was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would have to go with that. Now your WWE tag team, Mount Rushmore.
Well, I'll say the New Day.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's see here. I'll throw the Usos whenever they were doing the day one gimmick whenever they turned heel. I'll say
Okay.
that version of the Usos. I'm gonna say Eric Rowan and Luke Harper. When they were part of the Wyatt family.
Yeah.
Jeez. Gosh dang it! This is tough. Hmm. Trying to think. I'm gonna let's see. I'm gonna probably get a little bit of flack for this just because they were basically, trying to recreate nostalgia. But I'm gonna say Curtis Axel and Damian Sandow when they did Axelmania and Macho Man Dow. I ain't gonna lie. I like that when they did that little short run with the Mega Powers. I mean,
Yeah, I understand that. My Mount Rushmore would be, and WWE would be Edge and Christian, uh, the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, just because them three teams redone redone the tag team in WWE.
hmm
I mean, just blew it out of the water.
yeah,
And I'm not a big fan of of them. I mean, out of all of them, I guess I like the most of the Dudleys. Uh, then Edge and Christian, and then the Hardys. But they should all be on there, in my opinion. And the final team, it's got to be, and that's the New Day, because all the belts they've won. I
yeah.
mean, they've got to be pretty much on the top of the list, in my opinion.
It.
Um,
hmm
okay, we done all of them. So let's go to WCW. Let's go to NWA and then WCW.
Oh man, this was gonna be a little tough for me because I didn't really follow NWA much. Okay,
Yeah,
so well, I'll say Ric Flair, obviously,
yeah,
uh, Dusty Rhodes.
yeah,
Um, let's see, Sting, and
yeah.
let's see. I will say I'll say Arn Anderson.
Okay. My four is for Sting.
Right.
uh, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, uh, Magnum TA.
Yeah.
Just because I think Magnum TA would have been Sting if he didn't have that record.
Right.
And I really truly believe that. I believe that it opened the door for Sting uh, to become the megastar that he was because of Magnum TA. I really, and I know that's a awful thing to say, but if anybody's in this business and they know this business, the next man up,
hmm
and Sting was the next hottest thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's go to WCW.
Okay.
Who would be your Mount Rushmore?
Well, I'm gonna throw the Stinger on there again. I will throw. I'll even throw Flair in there again too. Uh,
Yes.
let's see. I'll say Ravishing Rick Rude, mainly because I felt like he got a better push with them than he did with WWF.
Yes,
And
sure did.
let's see. And then who would be my fourth one? Uh, I'm gonna say Vader. Big Van Vader.
Okay. That's a good four. I like that four. I really do. Mine would be for Sting. Of course, Ric Flair. 'Cause you can't. I mean, you just can't.
Right.
You got to put Ric Flair on there. I'm going to say Lex Luger.
Okay.
Uh, Lex Luger done a lot, for NWA and WCW. So, and my fourth, and I never thought in a million years back when I was a kid that I would ever say this, but I agree with you on Rick Rude.
hmm
I used to hate that man. I hated his living guts. But uh, yeah, I can fit Rick Rude on there.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. That's definitely
All
a good one.
right. Now tag team.
Hmm. Well, bear with me because I don't remember many tag teams for NWA, but I can definitely do it for WCW. If you're cool with that.
No.
Um, I'm gonna throw. Let's see. I'm gonna say Harlem Heat, hands down, one of the best tag teams
Yeah.
that WCW had.
Yeah.
The Steiners.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Let me think. Uh, let me. No, I definitely don't want to say the Outsiders.
Oh
No,
God.
no, nothing against those guys, but no.
I thought I was gonna have to do a U-turn to come back to your house.
So yeah, let's see. Harlem Heat, the Steiners. Let me think. Who else? Let's see. When William Regal, when he would team up with Bobby Eaton or David Taylor, the Blue Bloods. There we go. That was their team
Yeah.
name
Yeah.
because they were great technical wrestlers.
Yes,
Um,
I was.
and then I'm going to say Chronic, the late Brian
Oh,
Adams
yeah.
and Brian Clark.
Yep. I will do NWA because, like, I grew up watching NWA. And when I say these names, you're gonna be like, "Oh my God, I could have done this."
Hmm.
Uh, in NWA, I gotta pick the Four Horsemen:
Hmm.
Arn Anderson and Ole Anderson. That's the two. The Road Warriors,
Hmm.
uh, the Rock and Roll Express,
Yep.
and the Midnight Express
All
would
right.
be my would be in NWA. WCW.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
Oh, in WCW, it would have to be Harlem and Heat because I agree with you. I think that they was probably the best tag team ever in WCW.
Hmm.
I truly believe that. Didn't like them half the time, but I truly believe that. Um, then, uh, yeah, the Nasty Boys. I think the Nasty Boys did a lot in WCW,
Okay.
and they ran a lot of feuds with Harlem and Heat.
Hmm.
Um, of course, the Steiner brothers, because I mean, Steiner brothers was everything in WCW. And let me see, who did I who did I really think that like really stood out? I mean, I kind of want to go with what you went with beautiful Bobby and William Regal
Yeah.
because they was really talented, very talented wrestlers.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with them.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
You know what? I think I will give the NWA one a try. I really could. I honestly, when you answered though, I was like, damn it, I could have answered it after all. So
I figured you could. That's
yeah.
why when I said that, I was like, yeah, he's gonna be able to
Okay.
do this.
So
But go ahead.
I will say the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express. I mean, those two teams had feuds not just there, but also in Mid South and believe in WCCW as
And
well.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, they had great feuds. Let's see. I will throw the Road Warriors in for that,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna say the Skyscrapers.
Yep.
Because
And
you.
it's so many teams
Hmm.
because that's what's crazy. When it was NWA, it was transferring over like Doom, Von Simmons, and Butch Reed.
Yeah.
You know, Tracy Smothers. The Smoking Gun. I mean, it was a lot of tag teams. Even the American Dream, Dustin Rhodes, and his son.
Hmm.
I mean, there was a lot of teams back in the day. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I mean, my Mount Rushmore for tag teams. I mean, heck, I need about a 10, not 4. You
Right. Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Four's not enough.
No, no, no. It definitely ain't. I mean, but yeah, I was thinking about that, and I was like, yeah, I just want to know what his Mount Rushmore would be for, with with these teams coming up.
Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, I really liked it.
yeah, man. No, that was awesome. I'm glad you suggested that.
Now,
Hmm.
now, what is your Mount Rushmore in total?
All right. Let me.
and all four we'll do singles, and then we'll do tag team.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to remember
And I,
what
and
every.
I even want to do a mid card,
Oh, jeez.
mid mid card that people that should have like got pushed but never did, or whatever you want to say it. Mid card Mount Rushmore.
All right. So, overall, my Mount Rushmore. Again, I'm gonna throw Taker on there.
Uh-huh.
Um, let's see. I believe I had mentioned. I'm sure Cornette's not going to ever want to come on this podcast once he hears this next name, but I'm going to say Kenny Omega. Um,
No.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, Mr. Cornette. You know, if you're hearing this, I'm really sorry. I know how you feel about. I know how you feel about Omega. So if that's the nail in the coffin for me, I understand. I totally get it. But yes, sir. Taker, Omega. I'm gonna throw Kurt Angle in there again, and let's see. This guy's in New Japan, but Hiro Oki Goto.
Yep, I know you're talking about.
All right, now you go ahead with your all-time Mount Rushmore.
Uh, I'm all time Mount Rushmore. Uh, man. Sting. Ugh. Man, I got to pick Flair.
Yeah.
I got to. Uh, man. Man. uh, Dustin Rhodes.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna. Uh, I'm just gonna say it because I think he done a lot for the business, and that's Hulk Hogan. I mean, I know he killed a lot of people, and I know he didn't help the guys out, but he helped create something that I love, and it's the wrestling. So
Yeah.
I got to give him props for that.
Yeah.
But go ahead with your mid card.
Oh
This
man.
one right here is really gonna be harder.
Well, I'm gonna say Paul Roma. Um,
Yep.
most definitely. I guess we would consider DiBiase mid card because I mean, heck,
Yep.
how many? When he went to Vince, I mean, how often was he main eventing?
Right. No, he's definitely mid card.
Let's see. Um,
And by the way, y'all, everybody's listening. We're not when we say mid card, we're not saying that they wasn't no good. We're saying that the mid card 90% of the time was better than the people was main event.
yeah,
Just I want to clarify that before we go on with this.
yeah. Thank you for clarifying that, boss. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you fine. I just didn't want everybody like, what are you saying now?
Well, I mean, hell, there were so many people that should have been pushed further than what they were. But let's see. So I
Yeah,
said those two. I'm going to throw Jake in there again. I mean,
got to,
he
got to.
let's see, Jake and uh, I'll say Steamboat.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
What about you?
Uh, Jake Snake Roberts is top of the list. The best technical, the best in ring by from the time that man walks out to the time the man gets into the ring and to the time the man hits the DDT to the man walks back out of the curtain. He was the most professional. You go back and watch any of it. He's professional from the time he started to the time he ended.
Mm-hmm.
So Jake Roberts, he should have been up on the top Mount Rushmore, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm going to say Ted DiBiase. I give it to him. Because if it wasn't for Ted, I don't think Jake would have got as big, and I don't think if it, back and forth on them two.
Yeah.
And oh me, man, that's hard. There's so many of them,
Right.
it's just unreal. Paul Orndorff.
Oh
I
God,
mean,
yes.
he should have been world champion multiple times.
Yeah.
And it's one guy that I think, and I know this guy done some, main event and stuff, but he never really got the push. He was a guy that come in and they fed him to the retard Hulk Hogan, and that's Earthquake.
Yeah.
I think Earthquake was a great worker, and I know he made an event in some and stuff like that, but he never really got the push to, he should have been world champion in my opinion,
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's my four in the WWE side,
Okay.
WWF, WWE, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
NWA, and that's the thing about NWA and WCW. It really wasn't a lot of big cards.
Right.
You can put Arn Anderson on there.
Yeah.
You can put Tony Blanchard on there. You can put, it ain't very many.
Right.
Because the group wasn't as big.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Them other two that I think of right offhand, unless you want to put Bobby Heaton, I think Bobby Heaton could have been world champion at one time.
Yeah.
When Ric Flair fought him at that Clash of Champions, that was a clinic.
Yeah.
I think the wrong person won because I think Bobby Eaton should have won, but
that match that he had with Arn Anderson when he won the television title, that was a hell of a match.
Yeah, that was a clinic. That was unbelievable. I think Bobby Eaton should be on there because I think he should have won the belt. It ain't a lot. It really ain't.
Yeah.
I really can't even think of none in WCW. Because you see them on TV, they was main eventing, or they was winning the belt, or just like Rick Rude. He come over here. That's one person that we could have put over on the WWF side, WWE side, in the mid card because, did he headline SummerSlam? Yeah, but did he win? No.
No.
And he should have been WWE champion. It's sad, but I know it's more, but big car guys, and sometimes it's the big car guys' fault because they just don't push hard enough or they don't show up early enough and stay there late trying to learn everything they can possibly do to get better. Sometimes it is them, but sometimes it's just the front office.
Right.
And the reason why I say that is because it's a proven fact. You go back and you watch NWA and go back and watch WWF, you can see what I'm talking about.
Right. Well,
WWF had their certain guys, and if you wasn't part of one of them guys, then you're done for.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what's sad too, and I'm gonna throw this name out there, Wildfire Tommy Rich. He
Yeah,
was at that, he
yep,
was, I think he was in the early '80s, like the youngest NWA champion. Whenever he beat
yes, sir.
Harley Race, and
Yep,
was he a bodybuilder? No.
no,
Was he a good wrestler? Absolutely. You
yep,
know.
yep,
Um,
100%.
Now, had he went to Vince, I mean, we already know how this would have turned out. He would have been, on the losing end of squash matches, left and right and stuff, and
Yep,
it's a shame. Um, I've
it is. It
I've
really is.
I've went on some TikTok lives, and for some reason, these people think that when I tell them I'm in the business, they think that I'm, actually in the ring. I said no, and I explained the circumstances, and I said I am training to have a match, but I've told them, I said, one of the promoters, he's really big, basically referring to you, that about
Yeah.
being really big on psychology. I said, is it great if you're in good condition? Yes. Is it great if you have a good move set? Yes. Is it great if you can cut a good promo? Yes. But you've got to have psychology.
Right. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about psychology. And I mean, a lot of people don't understand it because psychology is the art form of what we do. Um, the time we show up, to the time we come out, to the time we step in that ring, to the time we step out of that ring, to the time we step back into that locker room. That's all psychology.
Right.
The only way that you can really make it in this company, in any company, at a professional level, is you've got to be able to talk on the mic. You got to be able to, you know, be able to wrestle, and you got to have charisma.
Hmm.
You got to, everything you do got to make sense. Every move you land, everything that you do, every bit of it got to make sense.
Hmm.
It's kind of like when I'm making a movie and they say action. That like clicks in my head. All
Right.
right, I'm JC Flash now.
Hmm.
And then when I go out there, the only difference is we got one take, they got 9,000 takes.
Right.
We go out there and we do it. And we got one take to put this charisma into it, to put this psychology into this match. Because if you go and you watch Rocky Balboa, and Rocky Balboa beats up everybody, and nothing ever happens to him, he beats him up and he leaves. Would you go back and would you watch that show again?
No.
No, because it ain't no story and it's no psychology to it.
Right.
That's the same thing as what psychology is. It's like telling a story.
Hmm.
But if I go out there and we tell good psychology and tell good story, then you get it. Fans get invested. Fans love that more, and you know they want to see more. They want to watch. They can't take their eyes off this because they want to know what's going to happen at the end.
Right.
So that's what so many people is so confused about psychology. A lot of them think, oh, well, you just got to have psychology in the ring, or you just need psychology for your entrance, or you need psychology for this. No, you need psychology for the whole thing.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, you're not going to learn that. It's going to take, you know, it's going to take you to be in the ring learning stuff. It's going to take you by coming out to a crowd and, you know, learning the crowd, learning how they react, learning everything. And that's one thing, too. I've wrestled all over the place. And, you know, every crowd is different. I remember you and Derek was talking about the little bitty crowds that he walked in front of. And I've walked in front of 3 or 4 people myself, too.
Yeah.
And I've walked in front of thousands of people at one time. Okay? So I tell you right now, Andrew, it's a whole lot easier walking in front of a crowd of thousands of people, and it is 3 people.
Mm.
And a lot of people are like, "Well, how's that? You'd be more nervous. You got more people watching you." I said, "Yeah, but you fit. Just say you fit 500 people in a building. Maybe some of them's gonna be watching you. Like, and I mean, when I say watching you, I mean watching every little move you make. But I guarantee you, them 3 people is gonna watch every move you make.
Oh yeah.
You know, so any kind of little mess ups you do or anything like that, you're gonna get called out on.
Right.
That's the difference between, uh, you know, doing it that way and that way. You know
Mm.
what I mean?
Yeah. Um, since we're on Mount Rushmore, what would you say would be your Mount Rushmore of the strongest wrestlers?
The strongest wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, let's see here. Strongest wrestlers. Well, let me see here. Like, what do you mean by stronger wrestlers? Like, what do you mean by that? Like,
That could like strength wise and stuff, with physiques and or world
like,
strongman,
like, like.
like a Mark Henry or somebody like that.
Okay, all right, all right, all right. Now I got what you're talking about. Okay, I didn't know if you were talking about like the way they look, like big and muscle, or are they really strong? That's what I was meaning
Right.
by
Yeah.
what was different.
Yeah.
Mark Henry would definitely be on there. I mean, he's the world's strongest man. I don't see him on there. uh, man, I can't think of his name right. Dino Bravo.
Yes,
Am
sir.
I saying that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, Dino Bravo. Man, he was strong. And I think he was like a world's strongest man at one time, wasn't he? Something like that.
He might have been. Now I know when, which of course when international wrestling went kaput, then Bravo went to work
Yeah.
for Vince. They started to build him as world's strongest, the world's strongest man when they did that little bench press thing at the '88 Royal Rumble, and
Yeah.
he went for like a 715-pound bench press, but he didn't get it. So,
Yeah.
but he still got like
Yeah.
650, I think, or something. So,
Right. Yeah, that's pretty strong.
yes, sir.
I'm going to leave him on the list for sure.
Right.
um, man, I'm going to. Some people are going to laugh at me about this, but I really don't care. I'm going to put Vader on there.
Okay.
I think Vader was very, very strong. Um, and who would be my fourth? Uh, I could fit in. It don't work for me, brother. He slammed Andre the Giant. I had to say that. I had to say
Yes,
it.
sir.
Um, man, I'm gonna. Do, and it's because what I've seen them do. Seen all the guys that they picked up on their shoulders. Um, I'm gonna have to go with John Cena
Okay.
or Lex Luger
Yeah.
because of the torture rack
Mm-hmm.
and because the attitude adjustment.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, John Cena picked up the Big Show, but Lex Luger picked him up too.
Right.
So I mean, it's kind of like a split tie with that. Who would be yours?
So I'm gonna throw Mark Henry in there, um, and I'm gonna say Ken Patera because he was the first to overhead press 500 pounds in, I believe it was in 1972 when he competed in the Olympics. No, I'm
Okay.
sorry. No, 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 no. That was at the Pan American Games that he did that. I think that was back in '71, but he still had a strong showing in the '72 Olympics. Well,
Okay.
um, let's see. This guy doesn't get enough credit, but I'm going to say, well, he Claudio Castagnoli, but he wrestled as Antonio Cesaro in WWE.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah.
Pound for pound, he was probably one of the one of the strongest wrestlers. Um,
I got to agree with you on that.
and my next one, mm, God, um, I'm gonna have to go with I'm gonna have to go with the Warlord.
That's a good one. And I was thanking him, but I couldn't remember his name. And I'm sorry, Warlord, but when you first asked me that, he was a guy that I could see his face. I've seen everything, but I could not. I mean, like his name is at the tip of my tongue, but I could not get it out.
Hit man, him
but
and well, heck, when the Powers of Pain had that rivalry with the Road Warriors, it was let's see, they had a bench press competition, and if I'm not mistaken,
yep,
I think that's when Warlord hit Animal in the head with one of them plates, and I think Animal's eye came out of the socket a little bit,
yep,
or,
yep,
or broke his orbital bone or something. But it's funny because that bench press competition was actually between the Barbarian and Hawk.
yeah.
It would have made
Ain't
more
that
sense to
crazy?
have your bigger guys do it, but okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And,
Um,
I'll be honest with you. I mean, truly, I mean, you would have to fit, Fire and Glory and the Road Warriors if you're doing a tag team strongest. Because I mean, them two teams was probably the biggest, baddest, at that time, like buffed up, strong team. You know what I mean?
oh, you mean the Powers of Pain, Warlord and
Yeah,
Barbarian? You said
yeah,
Power,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, you said Power
Oh,
and
I'm
Glory.
sorry.
Oh no, you're good, buddy. Yeah, that was Herc and
Yeah,
Roma. Now
yeah,
Herc was a beast, and
yeah,
Paul Roma,
yeah. I
he
mean, he wasn't no slouch.
no, I mean I watched a
And
match. Go ahead.
I think he's another one that should have been on the Mount Rushmore of mid cards, Paul Romer,
Yeah,
because I mean, he was a very good worker too.
yeah,
You know,
and he didn't take shit.
no,
He didn't
no,
take any shit, and that's one of that's one of the many things I respected about him. I actually follow him on TikTok, and he actually has a podcast that they show on YouTube. He's partnered up with a fella, and it's called Power and Glory. And I've listened to some episodes, and but I watched a match between Roma and Animal. It was on the one of them Coliseum videos. It was Rampage '91, and it was a match either in Madison Square Garden or it was in the Boston Garden. It was basically a house show, and man, I mean I know it wasn't a long match, but man, Roma was probably 230 something, and Animal's close to 300. JC, he picked him up and gave him multiple backbreakers and was holding on to Animal like he was a small child.
yeah,
And the dude was a great wrestler. He was athletic as all get out. He was at that time he was one of the few wrestlers that could walk up the ropes backwards. And
right.
one thing that he did, and you'll know what I'm talking about, but at the '95 Super Brawl, when he had that match with Alex Wright, he had that massive elbow drop. He just God only knows
Yeah,
how high he went up in the air and stuff. But yeah,
right, right.
Roma should have been pushed to the moon. And
Yep.
but him and Jim Powers have actually they reconciled, and Powers was actually on that Power and Glory podcast. Mario
Oh,
Mancini
okay.
is also he's also a part of that podcast as well. So, but
Heck
yeah,
yeah.
Powers and Roma they've reconciled, and it was actually a good podcast to listen to and stuff. So,
I'd check him out.
yes,
Yeah.
sir, yeah, and anybody listening to this, definitely give that a listen to on YouTube. It's really awesome.
Right.
So I
I
like.
got
Go ahead.
no. Go ahead. Go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask, what was the one moment in wrestling that it just absolutely pissed you off to where
uh, like, do you mean like piss me off like I want to shut the TV off, like I'm done with wrestling, or like piss me off because you're beating up my hero?
um well, kind of more so on the first option, but it's like, what the fuck are y'all doing? That type of thing.
Okay. Uh, I guess Hogan versus Sting.
Mm.
Um, uh, that that was the death of WCW in my opinion. I was actually watching that pay per view, of course, and as soon as I seen that ending, I shut my TV off,
Mm.
and I didn't even turn it back on and watch the celebration because I knew it was bullcrap, and I knew something wasn't right. I didn't know exactly at the time, but I knew something. I was mad. Uh, the biggest thing that I can think of that somebody turned, and a lot of people think that I would say when the Four Horsemen turned on Sting, I seen that coming a mile long.
Right.
But I'm gonna say when Ravishing Rick Rude, uh, when Luger turned against Sting and Ravishing Rick Rude beat him for the United States title, I
Mm.
was so mad at Rick Rude, Class of Champions. I won't never forget that.
Oh God,
But
yeah.
that I mean, he drove back in that ambulance and then come out there and wrestled, and oh, I was so mad. I remember watching that with my grandmother, and oh, I thought my grandmother was going to break her TV, but she didn't break it. So,
um, let's see. I'm gonna that
what
that
was yours?
that this is actually WCW, and it involves our best friend Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I bet
Uh,
it does.
just fast forward to a year later, the finger poke of doom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, fuck, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I just don't really have any words other than what the fuck. Obviously I was 13 at the time, so I couldn't cuss around my mom and my stepdad because
Yeah.
there'd be repercussions. But yeah, looking back, it's like, what the fuck, y'all? Come on. And
Yep.
I know, I'm not disagreeing with what you said. Have you listened to the interviews and stuff and all that, like from Bischoff and, well, Bitchoff, as Honky Tonk Man has called him? But
Yep.
you've heard the backstage banter and stuff about why they did that?
I heard some, but go ahead and refresh me and the listeners.
Okay, so rumor and innuendo is that the initial plan was for Sting to win the belt, and
Yeah.
they were going to do that fast count, and because I mean this is just a little about a month and a half after the Montreal screw job, because Bret Hart's now with WCW. Um,
Right.
if I'm not mistaken, I think Bischoff went on record and said that, I guess, either some of the boys got in Sting's ear, or Sting had a preconceived notion that he was going to have the carpet ripped out, pulled out from underneath him, or the rug pulled out from underneath him. That they were going to pull some kind of swerve or whatnot. And when they were in the back, well, actually, I don't want to pull the curtain back too much, but basically, in a nutshell, apparently Hogan told Nick Patrick, you count that 3 count regular, brother."
Yeah.
And so that's why when you watch the match, and for those that haven't watched the match, you can see it. You can find it on YouTube. It's Sting Hogan at Starcade '97, and Hogan hits the leg drop, and then Nick Patrick does a regular 3 count, his normal pace, and then that's already the start of it starting to shit the bed. And this is the main event of
Yeah.
WCW's version of WrestleMania. And they built this matchup for
Right.
since the summer of '96, and,
Amen.
and and that one moment just fucking
Yep.
killed it. Now I haven't heard Sting's version of it. Um, I'm sure there is a version out there somewhere, but that's the story that I have heard.
I've I've heard his version.
Oh, you did? Okay. Will you share that with
Here,
us?
here, yeah, I share it with y'all. His version, what what I've heard of his version, and it come from him. It didn't come. I didn't hear from somebody else. He said that that whole the whole the whole week was like nobody really knew nothing, and then when it come to that night, it was supposed to be, you're gonna win. We're gonna, put the belt on you, of course. It's the big payoff. Um, well, it didn't go as planned. So he said that what he got out of it was that he was. They told him that it's going to be, Hogan was going to, do it. Then Hogan, they said something about Hogan said it wasn't going to work for him. He don't think that Sting, he didn't. Well, let me I speak like it's him. I'm sorry, y'all. They come to me and said I wasn't ready for it. Me acting like I'm Sting. Um, it wasn't the time to drop the belt off to me, so I'm not going to do that. And they come to him and told him that, hey, what's going to happen is you're going to do that, boom, one, two, three, real fast count. And he was like, all right. And then Bret Hart again do the same what he done. Well, he said that, all that goes down and they do a slow count three, and then Bret Hart still comes out and does what he's supposed to do. He said, what I was told by the refs that Hogan stopped him right before he went out and said, make sure that it's a slow three count or a regular three count, no fast count. And so the stories pretty much add up kind of the same,
Mm.
you know. So what what you've heard and what I've heard, it's pretty much the same. He
Um,
just said it was a lot of drama,
yeah.
for building all the way up to that. He said, but he heard it months in advance that Hogan said that he don't think it's right to drop the belt off. And it, for all y'all listeners out there, Hogan hates to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Go back and watch WWF and you can see, you know, uh, he's never wanted to lose, and he didn't want to lose to Sting, and that's just all it is to it. He's a sore loser.
Yeah, in WWF, folks. So he lost. He lost by count out to Big John Studd. Um, I don't think that was a Saturday night's main event. It might have been like a house show or something because it was on that Hulk Hogan Ultimate Anthology DVD set. And folks, let me throw this out there. This is well before I found out, how Hulk Hogan really was, behind the scenes. So just, forgive me on that. But let's see. He lost that match to Andre the Giant at the main event, not Saturday night's main event, but that the main event show that they had usually in February, like once a year, leading up to WrestleMania, where we found out there were two Hebners, that were referees. He lost to the Ultimate Warrior at WrestleMania 6, and if I'm not mistaken, that might have been the only clean defeat that he took, other than him kind of stealing Warrior spotlight after he won the belt. He lost by
Yeah.
countout to the Genius, the late Lanny Poffo, brother of the late Randy Macho Man Savage. Um, let's see. He lost to the Undertaker at Survivor Series '91, and then Yokozuna at the '93 King of the Ring. Well, I take that back. He also lost by disqualification in a tag match at WrestleMania 9, where he made a last minute appearance and it had an impromptu match with Yokozuna, who just won the belt from Bret Hart. And that's it on that. Now, WCW, he, I know obviously we know he lost to Goldberg when Goldberg won the belt. Um, he lost to Lex Luger on a Monday Nitro and then got the belt back. I shit you not, folks. 6 nights later, in the summer of '97, he regained the belt at Road Wild. Um, let's see. He lost by DQ to the Giant, who folks will know as the Big Show. For our younger listeners. Um, hmm, let's see.
he
I don't.
he lost to the Giant too, didn't he? Because he lost the belt to the Giant.
Well, see, that's the thing, JC, is I remember watching that match on pay per view in October '95, and there was no pin. It was
Oh, okay.
it was a DQ because Jimmy Hart turned
Well, how
on
did he
Hogan.
win the belt though?
Apparently, Jimmy Hart had a storyline, had a clause in the contract that if Hogan lost by DQ, he'd lose the belt. Uh, you know,
Oh, okay.
and Jimmy Hart had turned on Hogan by whacking the ref with the megaphone. Um,
Yeah.
God, I don't remember many Hogan losses in WCW. To be honest with you, and then obviously staying at Starcade '97,
Yeah.
but I mean there's a theory out there that they brought the Ultimate Warrior back to WCW just so Hogan could get his win back. I mean, if that's
Oh, yeah.
true,
That's all that was about.
I mean, I mean
I
there's
truly believe that.
there's some
And
serious.
what's the point?
Hmm.
I mean, I don't, I don't agree with it. I remember when Warrior showed up, you know, in WCW at that Halloween Havoc, and I was like, "Are you serious?" And
War.
it ain't that I wasn't a big Ultimate Warrior fan because I mean I kind of liked Ultimate Warrior. I mean, um, I wasn't like a big fan like you are of him, but I mean I liked him. But I knew when they brought him back, why they brought him back. I
Yeah.
mean, you know,
Well, and JC, you got to remember too. I mean, they brought him in. It was the fall of '98. This was right before War Games, and and keep in mind, folks, Warrior had been out of the business for over 2 years at this point because he had been fired, for a third time from WWF. He got fired.
right?
It was in July of '96, and then he shows back up August or September of '98. And then he's in the War Games match. Well, then he gets injured. He never should have been in
Yeah,
that Halloween Havoc match. But Warrior did say this in a shoot interview, which those are kind of rare to find. But there was about a 2.5 hour shoot interview. This would have been around the time that Self Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior DVD came out in '05. But he did a sit down interview, and you know, they were actually going to tell him not. They actually told him not to do the match because he had actually tore a bicep in that War Games match when he was ripping the cage and stuff and all that. And
I thought he hurt himself, but I wasn't for sure. I was going to ask you that.
that's why he was so skinny and frail looking in that Halloween Havoc match with Hogan. And yeah,
Okay, okay,
he had tore a bicep and he was working. He said that he worked with like one of those real big elastic rubber bands and stuff that you see at like Walmart's and sporting good stores and all that. They have a little bit of
yeah,
resistance. He was just basically doing that to kind of rehab the injury so he could fulfill his obligations and stuff. But that match should
right.
have never happened because that match was a train wreck. I've watched it a time or two and I was like, oh my God, this is horrible to watch. But
I,
they tried.
I mean, their first match wasn't a great match. I mean, it was an entertainment match, and I mean, it wasn't a bad match. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't a great match. And then they want to try to do it 20 years later? Like, what the heck? What's wrong with y'all?
Yeah, that
You know,
if you listen to the if you listen to Dave Penzer announcing the match, they're really trying to build this match up. He said this match is 8 years in the making because it's 8 years past the WrestleMania 6 match, and the time the God, I mean, just they were trying to recreate moments from WrestleMania 6, which I can understand that, but it was just a
I can understand it. I mean, if you're going to bring Warrior in my opinion, he should have brought him in when he was fighting the Dungeon of Doom or something, and then
hmm.
bring him in as a tag team with him. I think they would have got a lot more popularity out of it, and I think they would have got a lot better run out of it.
Mm,
Uh, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Uh, Instead of bringing him in to fight him, I just no. But like you said, that was a Hulk Hogan move, and uh, Hulk Hogan had Ted DiBiase's money, so they could throw it at Warrior and pay him to. And I heard they had to pay him to lose, and I would understand that. They would have to pay me to lose to Hulk Hogan. So if I was Ultimate Warrior, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I mean, I understand it. I
Uh,
mean,
yeah.
you
I
know,
I don't I don't uh, that I I get Hulkamania just ran, just got to his head,
yeah,
and I mean
I get what happened.
it even goes back to when he was in AWA before he went to work for Vince, you know, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, you know,
What did he say that he had to chop him down to size? To get him in reality, what this business is about. I mean, maybe I don't think he said it in all them exact words, but I'm just saying though, when Hogan come to Vince, Vince had to like, all right, this is the way we're going to do this. Hogan didn't have a lot of say in it. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
right.
You know, and
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why Hogan worked so good with Vince because you know Vince wasn't going to take none of that bull crap. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, and it's funny, and you'll remember this, but folks, if you watch Dark Side of the Ring, and I've mentioned this before on season two. There's the episode with Doctor D, David Schultz, when he slapped John Stossel from 2020, and Jim Jim Cornette had had mentioned not too long after that event. Hogan and Mr. T went on to the Richard Belzer show, and he put Belzer in a front face lock. And I mean, he really cinched it in because Belzer wound up dropping to the ground, and he wound up, busting his head open and stuff and all that. And got a big, Vince got a big lawsuit out of that. And Cornette made a very valid point. He said, Vince McMahon ain't gonna fire Hulk Hogan. That's his that's his cash cow right there, or his golden goose or whatever term he used. But
Yeah, his golden goose. That's exactly
right.
what he said.
But I want to touch base on what you just said about how Hogan said that Sting, he wasn't ready to drop the belt. So we're gonna fast forward to 2011 when Hogan and Bischoff went to TNA and for all intents and purposes almost practically killed it. Um,
Yeah.
TNA's WrestleMania was Bound for Glory, and they
Yep.
had started up that Bound for Glory series. And at the time, they were really pushing this guy named Crimson, who was a younger version of Goldberg, basically. And then I think he got in storyline, got injured, so he got pulled. Well, it wound up being Robert Roode who wound up challenging Kurt Angle for the title at the Bound for Glory main event. Well, Hogan said the kind of the same thing, except not that he was didn't think it was time for him to lose the belt. He said, and I quote, "Robert Roode ain't ready for the belt yet." And Robert Roode was planned to win the TNA or the Impact Heavyweight Championship from Kurt Angle, and Robert Roode should have won that match. Now, granted, he
Yep.
eventually got that run that he needed, that he earned and worked hard for, but he had busted his ass for several years before then, And he was, I mean,
Right.
he had been ready for a while, but yeah, Hogan made that call, and last minute plans, you know, were made, and unfortunately, Robert Roode didn't win it Bound for Glory, sadly.
Yeah. I mean, it don't work for me, brother. I mean, I, I really love TNA. I think there was a lot of workers over there that didn't get what they should have got. Um, Especially when Hogan and Bischoff come in. I
Mm.
did, I don't know what Dixie Carter was thinking. I think she was just throwing stuff to the wall and see what would stick. To be honest with you.
And JC,
And
what's crazy is, and I've went on record saying this, and me and you have talked, outside of the podcast, and um, I was actually starting to regularly follow TNA from, end of 2008 all the way through 2009, and I was really impressed with what I saw, and there were just so much, just the talent that they had, and seeing new innovative move sets, that I wasn't used to seeing and everything. I mean, it got me hooked. One of the things I liked
yeah,
about TNA is they didn't run their people ragged. They did four tapings a month, and but they also gave their wrestlers, leeway to pursue other things like work for other independent promotions, or in Bobby Lashley's case, got to have his MMA career, et cetera, et cetera. Which obviously people couldn't do that when they were working for Vince. And then when the
right.
announcement came that Hogan was coming in, apparently that did cause a stir in the locker room, because I want to say it was October of 2009. Uh, I guess Dixie Carter had like a town hall, I guess, with the wrestlers, and they showed part of it got recorded, but she had actually said to the wrestlers that, if you don't like the direction that we're going in, then then you need to look for work elsewhere. And I thought, are you freaking kidding me? I'm like,
Yep.
and you got to think, JC, you had your people who'd been there from day one, like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels. I'm gonna throw in Robert Roode, James Storm. I mean, all those guys. I mean, you're gonna tell guys who have stayed with, who have been with the company from day one, and say that they may need to go look for work elsewhere if they're not happy that Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff are coming in. And I mean, damn, I mean, it's kind of I hate to say it, but to me, that was a spit in their faces. Um,
Hey, Andrew. Hold
yes,
on 1 second. I'm going to have to get some fuel.
yes,
I
sir,
talk to this guy.
yes, sir. All right, folks, we are back. Like JC was telling me before I hit record again, he had to get some go-go juice for his truck and stuff. So, uh, JC, if you don't mind me asking, what does it normally cost to fill up a truck tractor that you're driving?
About $800.
Woo,
We fill it up every day.
man.
So, yeah.
Mm.
And it depends on, like fuel down here where I'm at is 3.18 a gallon.
Mm.
So, I'm pretty low. So, it'd be it'd be close to $800-900.
Hell's
That's
bells,
real.
man.
Do what?
I said hell's bells, man.
Yeah, running a truck it ain't cheap.
No, no.
Heck, just a regular oil change for
Hmm.
a semi is $500.
Oh, damn. And that's not including filter or anything. That's just oil only.
Now, now that is including the oil filter and the fuel filter.
Okay.
That's if you do it yourself, though.
Oh shit.
Yeah, if you pay somebody to do it, it's like 700.
Uh, do you ever get stopped by DOT for inspection, like just for random inspections?
Yeah, uh, about a month ago. I mean, I passed, so
Hey, that's all
get
that
lucky
matters.
every now and
Yes, sir.
then.
I know.
Yeah,
I know some trucking companies, if they got pulled over for a which you'll know what I'm talking about, level one inspection. But for those of you that don't know what a level one inspection is, basically you're checking everything. You're checking
yeah,
You're checking all the lights. Whether it's ID lights, headlights, turn signals, stop lights. You're checking the tires. You're checking brake measurements, the hoses. Let's see the supply lines. Making sure that
paperwork,
do what
uh,
paperwork. Yes, sir.
paperwork.
Paperwork. Let's see. Well, the truckers call it their DOT card, but I think, but they call or medical card, medical examiner certificate, all sorts of shit. If the truckers get pass it with a clean bill of health, then some companies would actually give them like an extra cash bonus incentive or something like that.
Yeah, my when I when I passed this a month ago, my company got me $125 for passing it.
Nice.
So I mean, yeah, my company does give out bonuses for that. I work for a little small company. I call it like a little mom and pop company.
Hmm.
Um, very good people. Uh, they're just like family.
Right.
The daughter just bought the dad out. Holly just bought her dad out, and she's like a sister to me.
Yeah.
And great people, love them to death, love her to death. You know,
Oh,
so just give a shout out to them. They're if anybody out here is truck driving, got at least 2 years experience in flatbed and needing a job, hit me up. This is a
also,
real good company to work for.
I'm gonna throw this out there too. Also, folks, make sure that your company is up to date on their Kentucky weight distance taxes and their international fuel tax agreements and stuff too, because God, if it gets caught at at a weigh station, generally that you or your your boss or somebody can contact the motor carrier's office and get that situated. But if you're stuck on the road,
Yep.
your truck may get impounded. you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's for sure. Then you'll be finding your own way home.
right, yeah. Um, I won't take up any more time on that. But yeah, I've got some stories that that I could share and everything. But I definitely I want to gear back to what we were talking about with everybody's best friend Hulk Hogan. Um, there there's a YouTube channel. It's called Marky D 123, and he has this thing. It's called Hawk Mania, and he'll have a picture of a hawk and with the head of Hulk Hogan, and he'll get on there and he'll say, "If you know a wrestler that can do the job for the HAWK any night, anywhere." you know, check your comments or something, Jack. Yeah, I don't know, just something, whatever. But anyways, and what's funny is when Hogan and Bischoff came into TNA, that they came in just right after Jim Cornette was let go from TNA, and honestly, I got to thinking, what would it have been like with Cornette working with those two guys?
Well, I'm just going to be plain and blunt with this. Is I think two people would have been dead and Jim Cornette been in prison. Tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead.
No, no, I gotta agree with you, man. At the prior to Cornette and Bischoff showing up on that Table for Three show that WWE once had with Michael P.S. Hayes, yeah, Cornette was not the biggest fan of Bischoff, and Um, I don't think I don't really remember hearing much about him talking about Hogan, but I can just imagine not only dealing with that, but also having to deal with Vince Russo as well and Terry Taylor. I mean, yeah, he would have been there, but it wouldn't have been for a it wouldn't have been for long. I think they would eventually ran him out, or he just would have said, fuck this, I'm done, whatever. And I know Honky Tonk Man went on record and said let's see, something to the effect of, if he was running TNA, he said he'd fire the people that's in charge, and he said he'd bring in first person he said was I'd bring in Jimmy Cornette,
Yep.
um, Cornette and Dutch, and hell, I mean, honestly, they probably well, Jake was starting to get his life cleaned up. I think at that point, but I think if he had been clean for a while, I think they could have brought him in too, and they might have could have done some good thing, better things than what Hogan and Bischoff did. The issue was is Hogan just
I'm
didn't.
going.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, and I'd say it after you.
I was just gonna say, I mean, Hogan just couldn't stay out of the spotlight.
Right.
He just could not stay out of the spotlight. Um, and between then he brought his daughter Brooke in, and she was married to Bully Ray and stuff. There was the Aces and Eights thing. He had his Immortal faction, which was basically their version of the NWO and all that stuff. He
Yep.
just wouldn't stay.
I do gotta say, I like that Aces and Eights
Mm-hmm.
better than I did the NWO, and not because um, NWO supposed to kill WCW, whatever. It's not because of that. I think Bully Ray, I think uh, Mr. Kennedy, whatever you want to call him. I think all them guys did a great job of what they was handed.
Yeah.
I think they did a good job. I really do. I mean, was it the greatest? No, but it was a pretty good faction. I really liked it a lot. You know,
Um,
so that,
mhm.
in my opinion,
My favorite faction that they had was the Main Event Mafia with Sting, Kurt Angle, Booker
yeah.
T, Scotty Steiner, and Kevin Nash. Um, I really liked that. Um, but one of oh my god, I think the clip's out there somewhere. But like Booker T and Nash, they're on commentary, and Scotty Steiner's doing the ring announcing, and oh my god,
Oh
that was
yeah,
pure
yeah,
gold.
yeah.
That was pure gold. Uh, and he then Booker T and Nash got in there, started beating up people. Booker T still holding the microphone and stuff, and still talking into the microphone as he's beating up. I think it was Xavier Woods, but he was Consequences Creed at the time and stuff. He'd get on the microphone. Oh, Booker T just gave him a vicious kick. Oh, he's gonna feel that. Oh man,
Booker T is one of the underratedest mega stars ever.
God Almighty. Yeah, they. I mean,
I mean
don't get.
that man had the total package
Mm-hmm.
plus more.
You know, and
And I
JC.
mean from the look
Mm-hmm.
to everything, you know.
I mean, when he, I think it was awesome that he was WCW, World Heavyweight Champion. But the sad part was it happened within the last, what we'll say,
Yeah.
what 8 months that the company was in existence, and
Yep.
and then he goes, and he should have had it low a long time sooner than what he did, and then he goes to work for
Yep.
Vince, and Vince basically buries him. You know,
Who are
y-
you?
yeah, yeah,
I like they did Diamond Dallas Page.
oh God, man, they freaking killed Page. Don't get
Yep.
me wrong. I mean, it was pretty awesome him working with the Undertaker, but I mean, just yeah, they killed him off. They, about killed off Booker T. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, let's see here. So that was in '01 when Booker T went to WWE, he did not win he still had the big gold belt, but he lost it to The Rock like the following month or so at SummerSlam in '01. Well, it wasn't for about another 5 years before he finally won the big gold belt again.
Mhm.
And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Now, yes, did he have tag team titles? Yes. Did he have U.S. titles? Yes. I don't remember if he held the Intercontinental Championship. He may have, but I really don't remember.
I don't remember him ever doing it.
But the fact is fuck, the man should have been world champion way sooner than that. Hell, he should, he was supposed to win that match at WrestleMania 19 against Triple H. And they,
Yep.
but
But it wouldn't work for him, brother.
no, it didn't work for him, brother. And the build up they were having for that match, I mean, it was just basically a glorified burying session of Booker T. And I'm so
Yep.
and you can give me your take on this, but considering me and you think a lot alike, but I think WWE is very bad about and TNA did it too, but they're really bad about crossing the line with personal stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep. 100%. I agree with you on that 100%.
Um,
It's sad but true.
you know, uh, if you were in charge of WWE at the time, well, actually, it's still WWF when Booker T went in. How would you have booked him?
Booker T?
Yes, sir.
Well, if he come in as hot as he was, I would have brought him in, and I would have more or less. I mean, I would have put him with the mid cards right at first, and let him, you know, go with that. But I guess the best way I'm trying to say that is I think I would have let him. Uh, I would have brought him in, let him work with the mid card, but I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have made finished of it. Never mind. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying to buy stuff out of the self checkout. Just
Oh,
gonna have to wait.
you're good, buddy.
But yeah, it's kind of confusing. But I would have booked him with the mid card talent, and I wouldn't even recognize WCW. I wouldn't have recognized none of that. I mean, I think that's what they messed up at when they bought that company out, and they had these guys come in. They was the WCW dudes. They was all this stuff.
Mhm.
I think that was the craziest storyline that I've ever seen. It didn't make no sense. You had these people going in and doing stuff that didn't make no sense at all.
Mhm.
So um, I like the DDP stalker gimmick. I like that. It was different. But they just killed him too, though. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But Booker T, I would have brought in as a mid card guy and let him work his way up. I mean, I think everybody should have to work their way up.
Mhm.
But by him, I don't think it would have took very long.
Mm-mm. The infamous match that him and Buff Bagwell had on that Raw show.
Yeah.
I think it was in Washington. Would you and a lot of people have said this, and I think I know your answer, but
Thank you.
would you have rather waited to book that match for when they were going to be in Atlanta the next week?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that'd have been the smartest business call. Let me ask you a question.
Hmm.
Who brought in the world title?
when after Vince bought out WCW,
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
Booker T was their last recognized WCW heavyweight champion.
Okay. I was thinking that, but like I said, I didn't watch when they bought him out. Oh, I was mad. You know, I'm a WCW guy, so I didn't watch WWE for a little while.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Booker T is the World Heavyweight Champion, and they want to do whatever they want to do. Why didn't they bring him in as a heel, as the real World Champion?
I don't
They
know.
done that before with Ric Flair. So if it was me, if you asked me that again, then and me knowing that, I would have brought him in as the real world champion, and I would have had him fucking dominate.
Well,
I would have brought Booker T in, and he would have fighted everybody and dominated and ran wild over everybody at the beginning, and then finally, like, I ain't talking about like Austin or nothing like that or The Rock. I'm talking about other people in the locker room. I would have had him come in and you know dominate them,
hmm
and and then when it come down to him fighting Austin or something like that, whoever the world champion was at that time, then when he ran head to head with them, then there's your story.
hmm
The WCW champion versus the WWF champion. Build that up to WrestleMania, and then let your WWF guy win, walk out with both of the belts, drop the big world title in the trash can, and that would certify that WWE is the real company.
Yeah. Well,
That
go ahead.
that's the way I would have booked Booker T, because Booker T could have delivered on all that.
Sure. Well,
You know.
yeah. Austin, when Booker T came in, Austin was still holding the WWF championship, and Austin held it until the September Unforgiven pay per view when he lost it to Kurt Angle, and then he wound up winning it back on an episode of Raw like 2 or 3 weeks later, and then he held the title until it was right before the. I can't remember if they had called it Armageddon yet or if it was Vengeance, but it was their December pay per view, and that's when they. Uh, well, let me backtrack here. Um, Hmm. No, no. Austin still had the belt, even going to that pay per
Okay.
view. Because what they did is The Rock at that time was holding the big gold belt, and Austin. No, no. Yeah, that's how it went. Rock originally had the big gold belt. Austin had the WWF belt. I think they were, I guess, supposedly stripped or something, and then at that pay per view there were some qualifying matches. It was The Rock versus Jericho, and then Austin and Angle, and then it eventually went to Austin versus Jericho. Jericho won. That's when the quote undisputed champion was created, but they still whoever was the undisputed champion would still carry both belts at least until after WrestleMania. Well, going into WrestleMania 18. Then it was shortly after that they just went to one belt. But yeah, yeah, with what you said, that would have made a lot more sense because you had a bigger build up, bigger payoff, and that's what's missing nowadays. There's not enough build up. It's just this hot shot stuff, and it sucks.
I don't agree with a lot of what Rusev said. Vince Russo. Uh, I'm not a big Russo guy. I think he killed WCW. I think he was part of the killing of WCW too. Uh, but I don't know how you feel about him, but that's just the way I feel about him. Uh, my thing about uh, he did say something that made a lot of sense earlier. I was watching a video on TikTok, and his video come across there, and it said that he said, you know, all WWE is now, all you ever watch in WWE is wrestling. It's no storylines no more. It's no nothing. He said it's all it is wrestling. He said this TKO don't know how to tell a storyline if they tried. And he said I know Triple H does know how, but I think TKO is not allowing him. They're wanting to turn WWE into just, you know, like wrestling. You go out there and you have 5 matches and it's over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I agree with him so much on that. You know, no kind of storytelling at all anymore. It's more just, you know, and it ain't great wrestling. It's just wrestling.
Yeah.
You know.
It's funny you mentioned that. So on one of those TikTok lives that I've been a part of, which I've actually come across some pretty awesome guys, and there was a question asked, Cornette or Russo, and folks, JC knows this, but for those of you that don't know, I'm a diehard Cornette loyalist, and I will be through and through, even though he'll probably never want to come on the Grizzlies Cave because I did say that I like Kenny Omega, you know. Now, should Omega have wrestled a 9-year-old girl? No, come on. That you know, that was stupid. I'm sorry, that was just completely stupid. But let me get back. Let me get back here. Everybody was Cornette except one guy. He said he was Vince Russo, and I was like, oh my god. I told the guy, I said, dude, you're fired. And but see, I didn't know. I actually did not know that Russo had said that, and that really surprises me because let's look at the storylines that he had in WCW. Let's see.
But that's the reason why I started out that he killed WCW before I said that.
Yes, sir.
I don't like Rusev at all because you know all of that, but you know it's always easier to call a kettle black.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Well,
I just you know like at what's that one guy name off of Ready to Rumble?
David Arquette.
Won the world title.
Yeah. David Arquette.
Like, what in the hell? You know, that's about as bad as WWE putting Snoop Dogg in the Hall of Fame. Like, what in the hell? You know,
Well,
you won't never get me to understand that crap.
You know, Cornette said something that just really cracked me up. It's like one of his like really old shoot interviews, and he said, you know, they got he said they got Lance Storm out there falling around like a drunk man, and he said then you got Vince Russo who, you know, he's this big bug-eyed buggy whipped arm motherfucker walking down to the ring with, carrying a baseball bat to the Road Warrior music and thinks he's over because he's from New York. He's beating Ric Flair up with a baseball bat, you know, and you know, then there, you know, let's go back to he had that little storyline with Billy Kidman and Shane Douglas, you know, the Viagra on a pole match,
Yeah.
the Judy Bagwell on a forklift match, David Arquette becoming world champion, hell, Vince Russo becoming world champion. Hell, there was a match Russo had. It was against a guy named the Masked Heel, which turned out to be Stevie Ray and all that. And I'm like, oh my god, I can't, man. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know the biggest thing, the biggest difference between Russo and WWF and Russo and WCW is in WWF. Vince McMahon called him out on his bullshit and was like, you know, let's throw away those 24 terrible ideas, but I'll take this one good one that you've got, you know, we'll run with that.
Yep.
He didn't, that there was no accountability like that in WCW when Russo was there. And I didn't know this until many
Same
years.
way with.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
I was just saying I didn't realize that Russo actually went back to WWF for like a 2-3 week period. right after. Well, actually, no, it wasn't right after. It was about a year after Vince had bought out WCW.
I never knew that.
Yeah, could you
But
imagine?
I think that was the problem with WCW from the early days. You know, from Jim Hurt, whoever was running it, Dustin Rhodes, whoever was running creative, whoever was doing it, they they didn't have nobody to answer to.
Yeah.
When WWE, you know, they got all these writers like Vince Russo and when Eric Bischoff was even there, and you know, the list went on. You know, they everybody had to answer to Vince.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if Ted Turner really knew the business, you know what I mean, and
Right.
Ted Turner would have made the final decision. And that's the same thing with AEW. I love AEW to death, but that's the same thing with AEW right now. You know, I wish AEW would. You know, it seemed like they are picking up a little bit of ground, and it seemed like they're doing a little better now. And I hope they keep doing better for the
Right.
wrestling business in general. To be honest with you, um, but you know, it's the same way with him. You know, when he gets an ideal, well, he don't got nobody to answer to but himself.
Right.
You know, Tony Khan. You know, so I think that was a big difference in a lot of the other companies that they would hire these guys, these bookers, and just give them here's a checkbook and do what you want. I mean, that's a proven fact over Eric Bischoff and Vince Russo.
Right.
You know, both of them. You know, um, what would you, what do you think WCW would have come if Eric Bischoff was able to buy like he was planning on buying it?
Oh man. Well, I think for starters, they would have kicked Vince Russo to the curb.
Oh yeah,
They would have done that. I'm gonna say they would have brought back Dusty in as a booker. You know, on a full time basis. They probably would have kept Kevin Sullivan and Mike Graham as well.
yeah,
But part of me has this feeling that Hogan would have been in the, been Bischoff's quote unquote main attraction and stuff. Um,
yeah. Let me tell you what I think.
what's that?
I think it'd have been the same thing as TNA. I think that Eric Bischoff would have bought it. I think it probably would have lasted, and they kept the TV deals and all that. I think it would have lasted about another mm, 2 years,
I
and
was
Hogan and Bischoff would have ran it to the ground.
I was actually going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say I was going to give them 5 years, but yeah, 2 years sounds a little bit more accurate. Well, if you remember,
Now,
there.
if they had sense, and if they would have brought in Dustin Rhodes, and if they would have, you know, Eric Bischoff would have just ran it and let somebody else do the booking and rewrite contracts, and I mean, he would have had to. I mean, he would never been able to pay Hulk Hogan the money he was paying him, Kevin Nash, all them guys, you know. And so, I mean, uh, and there was a lot of WCW guys that like Sting, and you know, there's a lot of them that they didn't have to go if they didn't want to. That's the reason why they didn't have to go to WWF
Hmm.
at the time. You know, so really, I mean, would a Sting would have stayed with them?
I think
I
you would
think
have.
if I think he would have if Old Bischoff went over. Now, like if they would have put a Dustin Rhodes back in charge or somebody like that, I think he would have stayed
Yeah. Yeah.
because I think he was doing what he had to do at the end of that. Like he said, you know, he was sad for the workers that didn't know what they was going to do, but he was relieved all in the same night.
Hmm.
You know, and being a fan when it all went down, you know, I thought WCW was the greatest thing ever. You know,
Hmm.
but I mean, of course, there's a proven fact that it was a shithole after I learned the business. But um, I mean, there's a lot of workers. Ric Flair said it's the best thing ever happened. I mean, so it's kind of hard to know. You know,
Yeah,
two of the greats.
right. I hmm. Yeah, that's my first thing. They would have, yeah, Vince Russo would have been done at that point, because I mean him and Bischoff, I mean they could not see eye to eye on anything. Um,
Like,
but I think it would have, given maybe given WCW a little bit of an adrenaline shot, so to speak. I think they might have went 5 years, but 2 years does sound a little more accurate. But I'm like you; Bischoff wouldn't have been able to pay out all that money, you know, um, unless if unless if they did ink a deal with another television company that was outside of Turner. And let me think. If I'm not mistaken, I think Bischoff went on record on that Dark Side episode. They were going to purchase it for $67 million, I believe.
yeah.
And they were getting ready to ink the deal, and then apparently, I guess Time Warner wanted to be done. AOL Time Warner wanted to be done with wrestling, so they sold it for $2 million. Well, why not just fucking sell it to Bischoff? If Bischoff could have say,
Well, the reason why Bischoff didn't buy it, like he had the investors, he had everything, and he was going to buy it, and he was going to pay that money, but he thought he was going to get the TV deals with it.
mm,
He thought he was going to be able to put it on TNT and TBS. Well, down, I think he said down to the last, like, days or hours or whatever it was. I think it was days. Um, he got a phone call, letting him know that, Ted Warner, you know, is not, he's not going to be able to be on, you know, TNT and TBS. And he was like, but without the cable channels, it's not worth nothing.
mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why that deal fell through. But when that deal fell through, that's when they sold it to Vince McMahon
You
for
know,
that pennies a dozen.
and I got to thinking, okay, so obviously TNT and TBS weren't going to have wrestling,
Yeah,
and at the time Vince, Raw was on Spike TV, which we used to call
yeah,
TNN, then it went to Spike TV, and then he had SmackDown on UPN. Honestly, the only
yeah.
hell, I think the only network that Bischoff could have tried to have got it picked up with would have been maybe USA, but USA
You know,
was a big time WWF
some people
carrier.
asked, some people asked him about that.
Oh, really?
And said, well, why didn't you go to USA? And he said, I never thought they would ever take me. And USA actually said that they would have took him.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he said it was an interview. He was doing a broadcast or something. It was an interview that he done with some, I don't know who it was, so I couldn't tell y'all. But I was scrolling through Facebook. I watched a lot of them on that. But yeah, he was on there doing an interview of, I think it was a little bit of the who's responsible, the death of WCW or something like that was a thing about it. But yep, he didn't say that.
Hmm. And
No,
and
I
it's
don't know.
and it's ironic too because even after Vince bought WCW, heck, they were still on Spike TV for another 4 years, and then they went back to
Yeah,
USA. I think it was October of '05 or something like that. They called it their homecoming.
yeah,
The Raw homecoming. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, uh, we can what if it to death. The only thing is we do
yeah.
know is Bischoff didn't pull the trigger on that. And it's ironic because you know AOL Time Warner wanted to get out of the business, or didn't want to deal with the wrestling business anymore. But it's ironic that a wrestling company is on TBS and TNT, which actually now it can be streamed on the HBO Max app now. AEW stuff can, and I've kind of gotten a little bit back into AEW, and a lot of that's because of that girl, Timeless Tony Storm. I love that character. I love that character. She's gorgeous as all get out. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but she's a good wrestler, and she kind of reminds me
Have
of
you seen the promo between her and MVP, uh,
Mercedes.
Mercedes Monet?
No, sir. But I've heard that was a pretty dynamite,
You
promo.
you need to go back and watch that promo
Okay.
between them two. They, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that was the best female promo that two people could ever do.
Mm,
As females,
yeah.
and I've seen a lot of good promos in WWE with women,
Mhm.
but Tony Storm and Mercedes Monet, oh my God! And I haven't bought a pay-per-view in a long time,
Mhm.
but after me listening to that right there, I might just have to buy that pay-per-view and watch it.
Yeah.
Not All In Texas.
Mhm.
And if I do, I'll let you know so you can come on down and watch with me.
Sounds like a plan. I'll bring the
But
beer.
okay, that's a date.
But Tony Storm, she reminds me a lot of Matt Hardy. How Matt Hardy reinvented himself in TNA with the broken Matt Hardy gimmick. Same thing with
yeah,
her. She went from the rocker chick to timeless Tony Storm, and I mean, hell, she's God. That woman's over. I mean, just
what's crazy about it, and she pitched at the WWE,
uh,
and I don't know who turned it down. I'm not going to say Vince turned it down. I don't know. She didn't say, so I'm not going to put words in her mouth. But I heard that she did, and I didn't hear that. I did. She did not come out and say this. I want to clarify that too. But I've heard through the grapevine that she did pitch that name to WWE, that gimmick to WWE, and WWE said it would never get over. And be honest with you, I think that's the biggest thing in female wrestling right now is her.
yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean,
You know,
we're talking her surpassing like Charlotte Flair and Becky
yeah,
Lynch and all that. I mean, yeah, the whole black and white thing. When she does her entrances and stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome because it's
yeah.
different. And
Well, what did I say earlier about psychology?
mm-hmm,
You need to know it all, and she knows every bit of it.
yeah, um,
I mean, it's just unreal. And she's come up with every bit of this herself.
mm-hmm,
It's kind of like a Bray Wyatt thing,
yeah,
you know, with the Fiend and all that stuff. I mean, he'd come up with every bit of that.
yeah,
And that's how she is. I mean, she's just unbelievable. And that match that them two's about to have, oh my God.
yeah. And
And
Mercedes,
people can say what they want to about Mercedes Monet,
mm-hmm.
but one thing that nobody can say, she's a bad worker. Because man, can she work.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, hell, the matches she
You
used
know?
to have with Charlotte Flair back when she was still with
Yeah,
WWE. I mean, just man.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
So I can't. I can't wait. I mean, I can't wait for that match.
yes, sir. And another thing about Mercedes Monet, she made history. Back in WWE in 2016. Her and Charlotte were the first ever women's Hell in a Cell match, and that match
Yeah,
actually that
yeah.
match actually main evented that pay per view. I mean, so
Oh yeah, and it should have.
it should have.
You know.
Yes.
All right. Because we're on women, what is your Mount Rushmore of women across the board?
Whew. Okay, we're saying for all time, right?
All time.
Okay.
Your main
Mm,
four rush, your Mount Rushmore.
God Almighty. If the women of today's
Now that's a
professional,
hard one.
yeah, it is a hard one. If the women of today's professional wrestling hear this is not a knock. I mean, all of y'all are fantastic, fantastic workers. I'm gonna go with Tony Storm first. Um,
Yeah.
let's see. I'm gonna say Charlotte Flair, not because of her last name, but because the woman can work.
Yep.
Um, I'm gonna say Asuka, and
Okay.
um, and let's see, we're gonna let's see, I'll have to say I'm probably gonna butcher her name, but she's from Japan. Her name was Kyoko Inoue or Inui. Uh,
Okay.
she was a part of that All Japan Women's Wrestling promotion back in the
Uh huh.
'90s. That's where Vince was actually getting some of his Japanese ladies wrestlers to come and work back in the early to mid '90s. And
Okay. Yeah.
I saw some bouts that she had with Aja Kong. And hell, she actually wrestled the late Hayabusa in an FMW match when he was under the H gimmick. And I mean, the woman can work, you know. But yeah, that would be my Mount Rushmore.
Okay. My Mount my Mount Rushmore would be uh, Trish Stratus. I think that if it wasn't for Trish, women wrestling still wouldn't be what it is today. Um, I mean, if you got to pit Trish, you got to pit Lita,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Because really, if it wasn't them two, that women wrestling wouldn't be what it is today.
Hmm.
Um, them two got to pit Charlotte Flair, just because it's not like you said. It's not about Ric Flair. It's what she can do in that ring.
Hmm.
Um, and my final one, I'm gonna say Toni Storm. What she's doing right now, I mean, just unreal. She's
Yeah.
killing it, and she's been killing it ever since she was a rocking chick.
Hmm.
You know, and uh, I mean, knocking it out of the park. Um, now let's do. I really ain't gonna do WCW just because WCW really didn't have a lot of women wrestlers.
No,
I think
they.
that was one thing that they was lacking of more than anything.
Hmm.
But let's do AEW and let's do WWE.
Talk about women wrestlers.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So for AEW, I'm gonna say Tony Storm. Um, we'll put Saraya or Paige as she was called in WWE.
Okay.
Let's see. Trying to think. I'll throw Mercedes Monet in there because I mean, like you said, she's killing it. Um,
Yep.
the fourth one, um, I'm gonna probably get some heat for this, but I mean, she was pretty red hot for a while, and that'd be Britt Baker. Um, and then for
Yeah. Yeah.
for, for WWE,
She can be my doctor any day of the week.
hell yes, hell yes. Um, but let's see for WWE, I'll not I'll have to piggyback off you a little bit. I'm gonna say Trish and Lita.
Yeah.
Let's see. There was a girl named Caitlyn. Her real name is Celeste Bonin, but I'll throw Caitlyn in there, and Natalia or Natty Neidhart.
Yeah.
All right, you go ahead.
My AEW would be, of course, Tony Storm, Mercedes Monet, Doctor fucking Brett Baker. Man, he's fine. And the final one, yeah, oh, man. I don't know her damn. I don't. You might know her name. She was the first ever AEW World Women's Champion, the little Chinese woman.
Oh, Riho.
Yeah, Rio. To be as little as she is, my God, she's tough. And she can work too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that'll be my four in AEW.
Hmm.
WBA, of course, will be Trish and Lita, no doubt, gotta be. Um, and I gotta put her on this, and I know it's gonna be hard at the end to pick the final one, but I gotta pit Fabulous Moolah. Um,
Oh, oh, mm,
I
okay,
got, I have to,
okay.
and I mean, I can even pick Mae Young, but I'm not going to. I mean, I love her, and I think she should be right there with Fabulous Moolah. To be honest with you, um, but my final one's got to be Charlotte Flair again.
Yeah,
I mean, has to be, you know. Um, but yeah, I mean, unreal, unreal people.
yeah, man.
Them
That's
women, and I mean, the list can go on. I can pick Becky. I can pick, the four horse women on
right.
the Mount Rushmore.
Hmm.
So I mean, you doing that. I mean, I think Bailey, in my opinion, I think Bailey is the hottest chick in WWE right now.
You remember my buddy
And
Keith that I mentioned earlier that got into the wreck
yep,
and basically made a special entrance in the tow truck? He always called her Butterface Bailey. He said that she looked like Droopy Dog. I said, dude, I said she's not that. She's actually a pretty woman.
yeah,
But yeah, he always
yeah,
called her Butter. I was like, dude, what the hell, man?
yeah. He needs to get another egg. No, I'm not saying that. He
Uh,
might need to get smacked with a chair or something.
yeah, yeah. There you go.
But yeah, I mean, all right. What about who is your favorite all-time managers, Mount Rushmore?
Well, we'll have to
I
say
know one already,
yes,
so.
yes. We'll actually we'll have to save this for a part four because we are just about out of time, JC. But
Oh, okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah, yeah. But before we go, again, JC, I do want to thank you for taking time to be on Grizzlies Cave again. It's all like I said, it's always an honor and a privilege just to be able to sit here and talk wrestling or talk trucking or our past jobs and stuff. I always enjoy that. And definitely look forward to part four with you. But we'll start that off on the next episode. Folks,
Yeah.
again, I do
That
want.
sounds like a winner.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no. Sounds like a winner. I just want to tell everybody that I love all y'all. I appreciate y'all listening. And, I can't thank Andrew enough. He keeps thanking me, but I can't thank him enough. It's always a great honor if we're just talking on the phone or if we're doing the broadcast. It's always an honor. We always have so much fun. And I love you, brother. And
I love you too.
we see y'all in part four.
Yes, sir. And folks, again, the next NAW Wrestling event, June 14th at the Nebo Community Center at Nebo, Kentucky. Let's see, doors will open at 6 p.m. Concessions are available. It is a family friendly promotion, and JC can vouch for me. You will not be disappointed. And again, ticket prices are as follows: free for anybody ages 0 to 5, $5 for anybody ages 6 to 12, and $8 for anybody 13 and up. Well, for JC Flash, this is Grizzly Andrew signing off, saying take care and God bless.